Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Out of Our League. Today, we have a really fun guest, someone who means a lot to me, so I'm really excited to have them on today. But first, we have our panelists, our hosts, our wonderful people that are along with us. We have Caesar Towers. How are you
What is
today?
this? What is this show? What? uh, I'm doing well. I'm doing decent.
You're freaking out a little bit. We can
I'm
tell.
doing
It's
good.
okay.
I'm
It's
doing good.
okay. You know, it's okay to freak out, okay? Calm down.
You see this? You see this hand? Like very steady, right? You see it very steady. This is my shooting hand. Like this is. This is
Next up, we have Al, the Predator Tribesman. How are you today?
Doing great, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And last but
I'm.
always, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm nowhere near as nervous as Caesar. If you can, if
you
you
guys
can't
have no
tell.
idea.
And last but definitely not least, the man with one job, GF2 Cool. Gage, how are you today?
Oh, hi. I'm doing good.
The man with one job.
And of course, our special guest, the amazing Spawn on Me's Kahlief Adams. I just
What's
want to say
good?
one thing. I just want to say one thing. Kahlief, you're pretty good.
Oh, see, you can't just roll in with some David Hayter all up in my spine.
Yes.
Got me shaking like Caesar over here on the side with my hands like this. Put some David Hayter in my body.
So, so wait, really quick, fun anecdote. It was just Phil's birthday, and a bunch of us recorded birthday messages to Phil, and we all
Sure.
did like Solid Snake references, like we had cardboard boxes and things like that in the video. And the one last thing was we got a cameo from David Hayter for him, and everybody was just like,
Oh.
"Wow, he does a really good Phil impression."
That's amazing. Thank you all for having me. This is super fun. I know we've been trying to get this on the books for a long time, so thank you
Little
again
while.
for being amazingly patient with my ever changing and super busy schedule. And again, I'm super excited to rock with y'all. It's been a minute, so I'm hyped to be here.
That's awesome. Yeah, we are so stoked to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the first question I got to ask you about torture porn.
Yes.
So I've talked with you for a while. I've listened to Spawn on Me for quite a while.
Yes.
But it wasn't until I found out about Prince Jackson's Nightlight Pod and his interview with you.
Yes.
When I found out you love all types of horror. Doesn't
Yes.
matter what genre, what type. You're down for anything and everything, no matter what it is, including the word that some people find uncomfortable: torture porn.
Yes. It
Where-
is true. It is very true. I'm sorry. I cut off the last part of your word. I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna say, where did your love for horror come from? Where did that start?
First, I love the fact that we transitioned and pivoted directly from David Hayter and Solid Snake directly into torture porn. I think that is an amazing
Kojima,
amalgam.
That's the factor.
I mean, if there was a feeling that you want,
but I love torture porn.
do you like to see bodies ripped in half, like that kind of stuff? It's like, well, yeah, kind of, sort of. Weirdly enough, I was not like a Disney child. Like I know a lot of kids, they grew up with Disney, they grew up with cartoons in that way. Like I was a cartoon kid, Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that. But my thing was always horror, and it was from my uncle. My uncle used to scare the. Can I curse?
Yeah,
on the show?
Absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, shit. So my uncle used to scare the shit out of me all the time. Like, he used to do terrible things to me in terms of like setting me up for things that would not be nice for small children to see or do to them. So basically, like when I was young, Nightmare on Elm Street was like first starting to be a thing, right? So like that was one of those things of just like, having horror always be a thing. Halloween and Michael Myers and Friday the 13th and all the classics of that time were kind of the initial kind of like thrust into it. But then you wind up kind of like, when you're in the horror space, you wind up kind of navigating sometimes off the beaten path to like super weird stuff. And like the first, air quote torture porn thing that I'd ever seen was the Hellraiser series. So Hellraiser was like my like gateway drug into gore fest stuff.
Sure.
And I just remember it being just like one of the most bugged out weird. I was like, yo, these monsters have like British accents and shit. It's like, what is like? I didn't even know what a British accent was when I was little. I was like, yo, they talk really slow. Why do they talk like that?
And
What's
you think
happening over
that's
here?
how monsters
like they
talk,
go-
period?
Yeah, I was like, yo, they talk mad slow, and then they also are like doing things with their bodies and their minds and their faces and stuff. Like the Chatterbox dude was like freaking me out. But it was weird because I never knew that I had a morbid fascination with any of that stuff until much later when I would watch stuff like gosh, what's the Reanimator was one of those movies that like also was in that vein of like and was it Fangasm? Was not Fangasm. What was it? The one with
Fangoria? No, that's the show.
It's the one with the silver ball that used to fly and used to kill people. I forgot the name of it. No, it was like this old dude. It's like this old dude who was like he looked like
It's Phantasm.
Phantasm. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name.
Fushigi
Phantasm
was like
and all those kinds of things.
Fushigi was like a weird I seen on TV toy. I don't know why I said that. Like, it's just like a it's like a metal ball that like in a glass ball thing that like it looks like a metal ball's floating. It's really stupid. Anyways, I'm sorry.
I think I know what you're talking about. Actually, I think I know what you're talking
That's
about.
the one where
Yeah,
people
it's supposed
can
to be like,
but it was
it's
roll
supposed to be
their
like
arms and stuff, but it looks
yeah,
like
the
yeah.
Oh
You're
yes,
supposed to do like illusion
okay.
with it and just like do shit.
Yeah, there's
It's
shit
weird.
like that, but it looks like it's floating. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you were clubbing, but clubbing by yourself.
Yeah.
It was that kind of toy.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting space because it was like the horror genre really just led to this love of understanding and kind of playing around with the ideas around death and the kind of conversations around like what happens after you pass away, all those kinds of layers of stuff that kind of are the underlying reasons why horror kind of works. Was always super fascinating. And then there became the other stuff that was like Cabin Fever and
Sure.
like Human Centipede and the Saw movies and
Hostel.
Hostel and all that kind of stuff. And it's just really interesting to see the idea or the conversation around one, why humans do really stupid shit when they know they shouldn't go in that room, which is like the fundamental thing of just like horror being a thing. And then two, from a really like kind of like fundamental thing is humans as human beings are very, very what's the word? Humans have a lot of hubris. But humans don't understand just how fragile they are from a very like simple physiological way, right? People are like, "Oh, I'm going to skydive." I'm like, "Yeah, you're a floating bag of meat." And you don't understand that you're a floating bag of meat. But these horror movies that are like these kind of gore porn stuff, it digs into that of just like how fragile we are as human beings from a physiological way. And I've always just found that super interesting and just like bugged out to kind of like dig into. And there's a whole bunch of people who just like, I can't fuck with it and I can't deal with it and I don't even want to look at it and I can't do it because it deals with a lot of that. But that has always been amazingly just like interesting to me to feel like, again, we think that we are invincible, but we are not. We are totally not invincible in that way. So it's interesting to kind of dig into that as an idea.
So I have this like weird not cathartic. It's like a weird fear. Like whenever I go into the restroom, I have to open the shower curtain because there might be like a murderer inside, and I'm always like terrified to do it.
Yes.
Do you do that if you open the shower curtain? Are you anticipating a murderer? Because you're like, this is my moment.
I can beat this murderer's ass if he jumps out of this shower.
I know what to do, and even if not, I'm living for this.
It's funny because I don't think like horror movies actually prepare you for horror shit.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't. Like there's so many things because it's like one of those things of like, oh yeah, I can totally outrun that thing. I will cramp up and fall easy. Like I don't have like I would need to be the dude who would like run but have like bananas in his pocket for potassium and shit. And be like, yo, I don't want to cramp. If I run and go do this thing, I'm out of shape. I used to work in IT. I'm not running from anybody. Just no everybody would catch me easy. But it is that thing of just like you do have that kind of idea in your mind of like, so what would happen if
You're in that
I did
situation.
wind up in that space, right? Where you're in that room. Like I'm not scared as much as I'm not scared of horror stuff. I'm scared of more things that are just like kind of everyday things of just like heights and stuff like that. Like I'm like, oh, I have a small fear of the dark, but not much. But like the idea of things being scary in those ways, I feel like and it's the reason why it's so funny we were talking about this is we were trying to find something to watch last night, my wife and my nephew, and I wanted to watch some gore porn stuff, and they cannot do it. My wife was an ex-social worker. Like I used to play Mortal Kombat, and she used to give me looks and be like, "Yo, you're a murderer. What's wrong with you?" And I was like, let's look at Spirals, the latest Saw movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, none of these gore movies have any plot. And I was like, you're bugging out. You're out of your mind. All of these movies have an actual plot, and they're actually pretty dope. And especially the Saw series, because Jigsaw, when Jigsaw was in it and was kind of the main person, never killed anyone. It's the only serial killer who has never killed anyone, basically. It's like everyone winds up killing themselves, which is the most interesting part about the Saw series. But everyone's like, yo, Jigsaw's a mass murderer. I was like, no, he's not a girl. He's not a killer. He is giving you the ability to figure out ways to get out of it. And everyone fails those tests and winds up killing themselves, which if you think about it, is fucking fascinating. It's fascinating as hell as just like a character. Because again, everybody else was like, oh, I'm going to run down the hill and stab you up and then do all that kind of stuff. But it's not like that for that particular character, which I think, again, from a plot point, from a plot point kind of conversation is super brilliant in the way that thing is written. So yeah, that was a long answer to a very short question of like why I like gore porn. But I love that stuff. It's super dope. I want more gore when people are like, no. I was like, oh, Mortal Kombat 11. I was like, man, y'all give me the other stuff that you didn't put in the game yet. Like, show me the real shitty stuff. I'm like, give me Unreal Engine 6 gore. Like, I want all of that now. Like, make it really gross and terrible. But people are like, I don't want to watch this. I'm like, give me that.
So when you play something like Dead by Daylight, do you just want it to like turn up the fucking gore in that game? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I'm like, I think that from a video game perspective, I think it is one of the most interesting things that you can't like. The fact that you can't have an AO rated game out on store shelves or really be able to be sold on any kind of digital platform like bothers me. And because I think a lot of people, when they think about that, they think about it from a kind of sex perspective. They're like, oh, people are going to put porn on here and do all that kind of stuff. Which would absolutely happen if people were able to go put AO games out on stores.
I mean, look at Steam.
Yeah, Steam.
I mean, look at Steam. Steam is wild as fuck. Steam is wild as hell. I'm like, oh, this is just like the whole hentai section here. Okay,
definitely not the stuff I want to see. Like, we can go turn away from the rape stuff. Like, no, we don't need that. We don't need that at all. Let's get back into dark horror.
Yeah, people are wilding out in the Steam store. But I think that the interesting part about like technology from that standpoint is that you can go all the way to the edge of the edge from a technology standpoint, and we have the ability to kind of do it from a gore standpoint. You can go on your phone and look at an anatomy app right now and get all the ways you'd want to have a body be a body. But I think that stuff is really just interesting that we haven't gone there, or there hasn't been an avenue for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels like the industry just doesn't have an appetite for it. And I can understand that. Like when I tell people that, they definitely give me like a weird look of just like, yo, Kyle, what happened to you when you were little? And I was like, nothing. Like, I'm totally fine. Like I'm more well adjusted than a lot of people.
Want to see my bear traps?
It is. It's like, hey, step in. Yeah, like it's not like I'm like, hey, I like gore porn. Wouldn't you step into this room? It's not like that. You know what I mean?
I find it really interesting because you look at, there's certain games that are literally there to push the wrong sorts of boundaries in that direction. Yeah. Like there was that game where you literally played a psycho killer who shot up a bunch of people for literally no reason.
Oh yeah.
Hatred.
Yeah.
So that I don't want that. I want an intelligent horror piece that pushes boundaries. Yeah. Like that's what I want.
Like Doki Doki Literature Club wouldn't happen if we couldn't have those games. I don't think.
Sure.
But like
That's a
something
great
like that
example.
will get great
Spoilers.
treatment, and we'll be like,
It's dating sim, Al. Come on.
that's right. Okay,
mean,
so but yeah.
When we talk about
I mean-
horror,
That came out of nowhere.
Okay.
All right, what do I do now, Gage?
So this is the
Since
point.
you are the king of spoilers on this podcast.
Hey.
It's not Gage anymore.
Not me anymore. Now it's Phil, I think.
I guess
Because he
I guess
just,
this
Wait,
could
what
lead
happened?
into another interesting conversation. What's your view on like spoiler culture? Because we live in an age where like if you don't consume something within the first 24 hours, you might as well have not consumed it at all. Like you
right?
Thank you, Caesar.
like what do you think of like say like an episode of an MCU show drops and
Yeah.
5 minutes later, like
24
during the
hours is a
episode
big
too.
difference. I got shit for talking about the Wolfenstein 2 ending about a year after it came out.
Yeah, he did. He got a lot of crap for that.
That's a game, though. Like, do you think there are
That's
different
funny.
rules for like shows, movies, and games
No.
as far as spoilers?
I have a controversial take on that, and I
Go for
love
it.
this show. You ask so many good questions. I love these questions because I get to be spicy as fuck. I have a controversial take on spoiler culture. I think it's stupid. Like, not the fact that people are spoiling stuff, but that people feel like they are obligated to ask other people to not spoil shit for them. We're at the point now where you have all the tools, I want to say all the tools. You have most of the tools to remove most of the spoilery shit out of your purview. You don't have to be on social media. You can mute everything you showed. You know the shit is coming. You can mute the fucking words in your Twitter feed if you're on Twitter or whatever it may be. So for me, it's really interesting that people have this idea of I must have this thing instantly all the time, which is an interesting conversation and concept too, which is like binge culture has led to a growth of spoiler culture because people have an idea now of what is supposed to be the way things work. And that's a part of it that to me just doesn't make sense. So it's like, I'm old. I used to watch it and you had to wait for the next week for the next thing to come out. Binge culture is a very new thing in terms of the way we consume entertainment. But I have like, as much as I don't want whatever the newest Psychonauts ending to be spoiled for me, right? I don't want that to be a thing that's spoiled for me. I do everything I need to make sure that those things are not going to happen to me with the tools that I have. When you say that, you're like, oh, why are people spoiling shit for me? You can't talk about the thing the day after it dropped. Get the fuck off Twitter. Like, you don't have to be on Twitter.
There's some times where I will like get rid of all the words, and sometimes stuff will still float into my timeline. But like that, I get the get off of Twitter for like a show or a movie or whatever. But a $60 game, sometimes I need to wait months to be able to afford something like that. It's like,
and
yes,
it takes a long time to beat too sometimes.
yeah, that too.
Yeah,
And there was
80
like
hour
a
game.
bunch of Resident Evil 8 dropped, and everybody was talking about like Ethan's body getting fucked up.
I think
everybody
the
was talking
hard
about-
part about video game culture is the fact that we have so many people getting pre-release versions of the games.
Yep.
And they're out here beating the game before anybody else. And a lot of them happen to be influencers who don't have as strict of guidelines as, you know, putting reviews out on a certain day or embargoes. They're just not, you know, adhering to the embargo as much as they probably should be. And that definitely hurts in some ways for gaming culture. But at the same time,
no, keep going. You finish.
I was gonna say at the same time, like Caesar was just talking about the ending for Ethan. I managed not to have any of that spoiled for me until I beat the game, which was
tried
quite a bit later after it came
hard.
out.
I was like texting Phil. I'm like, Phil, Ethan. I'm not gonna get into it because there's gonna be people out there pissed in the comments if I go any further. So,
it's also interesting too because I am lucky enough to straddle a couple of different lines, like influencer, press, industry person. Like I straddle a bunch of different lines in that way.
Horror
So I get stuff. Yeah, horror porn lover.
Wait,
cooker
whoa,
of-
okay.
cooker of
Dating
good
sims.
food.
Dating
horror
sims.
porn is very different.
I'm sorry,
than
gore
gore
porn,
porn. I
whatever.
just
You
wanna
know what I
throw that
meant.
out there.
Anyways, back to the
Horror
conversation.
porn. Horror porn is like Mortal Kombat XXXL. Like that's what that would wind up being. Is like that's anyway.
Shred her ass.
Baraka, what is that? Anyway.
Oh my god. He's just got two, things that come out.
It's a whole other movie.
But anyways.
But anyways, I love this show. The thing that's really interesting about that is to Phil's point, there's a part of the gaming industry, and I think that this is a really important delineation. There are people who are industry folks, and then there are influencers. And I think that there's a very different mindset that goes along with that. And again, having straddled a lot of those lines, and coming to the industry as, again, like a person who kind of saw it start, so like all the stuff kind of like initially begin, I have a reverence for the industry. I have an understanding of just how hard it is that PR has to work and marketing has to work and all that kind of stuff has to work to give you that 30-second trailer and hopefully not have it spoiled, having it in the can and ready a month in advance, right? Like there are so many people that touch a thing to give you that layer of surprise and delight. For me, it feels so dirty to spoil a thing for people. Like besides people who are out in the world who just like, again, I'm very different than a lot of other people because I get a lot of stuff for free. I'm getting access to things that a lot of people aren't getting access to. So I know the people who are like, this is the one game that I was looking forward to for the whole year, and I don't want that thing spoiled for me. So I like understand that that's a layer there. The thing is that when you wind up getting into those spaces where you see that stuff happening, there aren't any repercussions for it either. Like there are, like if you got caught, putting a thing out post, pre-embargo, you're probably going to get blacklisted for a while. Yeah, like I haven't seen anybody get sued, but like PR, like the video game industry is very small, and when you're at a certain layer of it, everyone knows each other, and everyone has the same lists, variations on the same influencer list. They see the temperature of the internet and who's doing what and who's doing cool stuff and who's fucking it up. And a lot of people are like, nah, that person just fucked up my embargo. Don't give him anything, or don't give them anything for the next 2 years. I heard a story about somebody from Nintendo who spoiled the thing. He was on a ban list for 10 years. He's on a ban list for a decade. Because Nintendo doesn't play.
That's true.
Nintendo don't play if you fuck up with their stuff. So again,
even if
it's
it was
like,
Mario 64, you just like spoiled that.
No, like it's one of those things of like the people understand the weight of all the work that goes along with that. So it's like spoiler culture, bringing it back to that, you have the tools to kind of figure out and mitigate a lot of that stuff. And if you don't do that work, I put a lot of that onus on you as a consumer of that stuff. And sometimes things filter through. Like I had a whole bunch of filters on, and because TweetDeck is ass, stuff gets through. So it's but so much you can do to mitigate some of that stuff. But the onus is on you to be able to do that stuff. I hate to see people like, oh, don't spoil stuff. It's the day after and people are already talking about shit. Hell yeah, because you already set the space up for people to do that.
Yeah,
you brought the hype into the space for people to be that excited to want to talk about a thing every time a thing drops. Don't be mad at the way the culture is moving when you were part of the culture.
It's definitely interesting when you think about like something like The Mandalorian, where you're looking at something that's like a 45-minute chunk. You can sit down, you watch it from week to week. Everybody's talking about that episode for the whole week, in comparison to something like I don't know, whatever Netflix show just dropped, and they can binge all 12 episodes of it all at once because they have all the time in the world, and other people have full-time jobs and stuff like that. And that's definitely a different feeling. I've gotten more used to it as time has passed, but it's definitely, I personally, I grew up, same era that you did, in then where we had to wait from week to week, and if you weren't home at a certain time, you missed an episode. So to that end, like I kind of like The Mandalorian, where I can just sit down for that one episode that week, or if I miss a week, I can hop into 2 episodes for 1 week or whatever, in comparison to like the binge all at once sort of momentum style. But as far as spoilers go, like, I don't like them, but it's not going to ruin it for me. I'm still there to enjoy that thing. It's not going to kill the hype for me.
Next time we're in a party chat, I'm going to talk about the MCU show that just dropped.
But the one thing that absolutely wrecks me is press release leaks. Video games that get really, like, announced or leaked before the trailers happen at a show or something like that. I'm like, why? You evil person, why?
It's funny. So like the Dead Space stuff dropped during EA Play. I knew about that a long time ago because I was the EA has a player council. They pick some people who are really interested in stuff.
Shout out to Prince again.
Shout out to Prince. Speaks and they asked me to be on that player council because I like gore. They were like, "Hey, we know you love gore. We see you talk about that stuff. Why don't you come on the player council stuff? We'll talk about."
We know you're a little fucked up. So like,
we know you like dark corners and gushy shit. Let's have you come in and look at the stuff. And it was cool to be a fly on the wall of some of the conversations that were there. I can't talk about anything else, but I think that knowing that thing was coming and then seeing people talk about it, but then seeing the leak before it, that was the thing that made me sad because I was like, I'm having conversations with the folks, who are putting this thing together, and I know just how hard they're working to make this right for fans, and I know how hard they're working to get it to be as true to what that feeling of the original Dead Space is with this remake. And I was just like, man, like, you don't know how that takes the wind out of people's sails when they have worked extremely hard to build a thing. When you get a couple of clicks off that thing that doesn't really do anything for your channel, right?
$100 revenue probably. Like,
yeah, like it's not going to give you that much stuff to be able to do that thing that's going to ruin that many people's days. So it's like it's a really weird concept for people to kind of go through.
So really quickly, you mentioned that you're part of like this player panel thing. Is it similar to like that Skate trailer where they had like a bunch of like influencers reacting to that footage? Like, you know what I'm talking about? The Skate trailer they dropped.
No. It's a little bit more in depth in terms of how we're all kind of like we're advising basically.
Okay.
We're like, looking at stuff
like,
that they're sharing and
consultants.
Kind of, yeah. It's like, you have an affinity for this particular series or this kind of thing. Please tell us some of the things that you're kind of hoping for and wanting to see in some of those conversations. So it's very high level stuff. Like we're not influencing any major decisions, but it's like one of those conversations of like, you care about this thing in a real way. Here, can you give us another eyes on it to make sure it's kind of like fitting what we're trying to do. And that stuff is great. Like that stuff is super cool. And again, that's a privilege to be able to do kind of stuff like that for games that you love or for series that you love. So again, it's like really not that hard to not spoil things for people. You just have to not be a dick. Just be nice about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So to rewind just a little bit, we've gone on a pretty long tangent here, but for those who are, have tuned in this long, let's hear a little bit about you. Who is Kahlief Adams?
I like horror porn. I like David Hayter. I hate Paris Lily.
I love spoilers.
I actually know how to cook. I love spoilers. Spoilers are the best thing on the planet. I will spoil everything. Did you know how you got here? You and your mom and your dad had sex. Spoiler.
Damn.
That's the thing that happened.
That's the biggest spoiler.
Biggest spoiler. No one even knew how it worked. It was through osmosis.
It wasn't a stork.
It wasn't a stork. It wasn't a stork. We all spawned from somewhere.
They spawned on me.
They spawned on you. They spawned on each other. But that was a whole other conversation. So I'm from the Bronx originally. I moved out to born and raised in New York. Moved out to Portland, Oregon, about maybe 6 years ago, probably 7 now at this point. Started doing this work while sitting at my desk job as an IT dude, working the help desk, and was really, really bored with my life. I was like, I hate this job. I hate working in IT right now. I don't like it. I feel stupid. I'm not using my brain. But I'd always loved video games. I've been playing video games since I was like 5. And knowing that that was going to be a thing that was really going to be something that connected me to this work, I started to write on a blog called the Spawn Point blog. I did that for a bit. Wrote for about 4 or 5 years, and then reminded myself that no one liked to read my writing. And they were like, yo, you suck at writing things. But I did have a good breakthrough on a game called Sound Shapes that was on the Vita. And the first thing I did was started to interview some of the members of that community who were making basically user generated content. So I started to interview those folks and I put it on the blog, and then Sony hit me up and they were like, hey, we wanted to do something like this in the same vein that you are. Why don't you just do it and put it on the PlayStation blog? Which for me was wild. I was like, what are you talking about? I read this thing all the time. You want me to do it and put it on the blog? So every week I'd put up an article on the PlayStation blog, and they would, basically recycle it and push it back out through their channels. And that was how I got my first like actual big break, was writing for the PlayStation blog for a little bit about Sound Shapes. Folded the site at the end of that part of the cycle. Met my former co-host Cicero Holmes, who helped me kind of start the Spawn on Me podcast. We were like, what's the thing that's missing here? What's the thing that we're hoping to see? And we were just like, man, there's nobody who we can see who looks like us in this space. There were 2 dudes. It's like Will O'Neill and Ngai Kroll, who were the only 2 cats who we could look to be like, there's some black dudes in this space that are doing stuff in the video game industry. And we were just like, there's got to be a space here. What can we do? And we started the show, and it was interesting to be able to start a thing again from scratch and not know what you wanted to do, not know what the angle that you want to kind of to get there. And then we got around to about episode 50, and he's doing his show from his living room. I'm doing mine from my kitchen table. And we get Dave Fenoy. No, we had Dave Fenoy on the show in like episode 2, which is wild.
Wow.
And which was a wild conversation. Cicero was like, we wrote a list basically. We're like, who's your bucket list people that you want to get? And he was like, Dave Fenoy, and I was like, who's Dave Fenoy? And I didn't know who Dave Fenoy was at the time. He was like, yo, this is the person who did this and this and this and this. And I was like, oh, we got to get him. He was like, no, we can't get him. We're only like 2 episodes in and our audio sucks. I was like, you're right. I was like, just hit him up, find out his contact info, hit him up. He hit him up on a Thursday. We were in contact with him on Friday. And he was like, yeah, he was like, we'll totally do it. Just let me know when. And that was when I knew that we were going to be able to do something interesting. Fast forward to episode 50, we get Evan Narcisse on the show.
Yes, my personal, that was what got me into Spawn on Me, was that episode, because I knew Evan from Kotaku and recently on Black Panther and stuff, and I was just so excited. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It was a huge moment for us too, because we were just like, we're in that same kind of like fandom for him. It was like, Evan is the dude. And we got him in like a really important part of like where he was at. He was still doing games writing, but he was doing this really interesting piece about black hair. And he was like full of raw emotion when he just came off that piece. So we snagged him at that time, and he had just put the piece up, and the day after we had him on the show. So he was like on it. And it just resonated with so many different people in the Black community, of just like having that conversation where you could hear everyone in the conversation just got it. You didn't have to try to figure out ways to morph language around and try to figure out ways to kind of explain why it's important. You just had a conversation with 3 of us on the show, just talking about it and bridging off of that. And that was when we kind of understood what the ethos of the show needed to be. And what it was going to be from that point forward, of like, oh, we can fill a void here in this industry that no one else is filling. And that was a very special episode for us. And then fast forward to God, now, which is like almost 8 years later. which is also wild to say. And we're about to, the show's about to hit its 400th episode, which is nuts. So it is a very, very interesting road. The podcasting game has been good to me. It's been something that has grown me into so many different areas I didn't expect to be able to get into. It's gotten me both of my most recent jobs. Working at Intel and then working now at Riot. It is a very interesting space to occupy with the work that we've been able to do with the show, and I get a chance to rock with y'all. So again, it's like super cool to be able to do all this kind of stuff and feel like it's actually moving in a positive direction where I can do some cool stuff with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, you're obviously a big inspiration that keeps me reaching out to really cool people to do this show. Like seeing the people that you were able to get on the show, I was like, maybe we can reach out to people. And then Gage got Tim from Kind of Funny on the show. And slowly we started to get more and more people from Kind of Funny. And then we got like some of our first non-Kind of Funny guests. And it's just been kind of like a wild ride of getting those emails back and being like, oh my gosh, we just
Still can't believe we got
person.
Xavier Woods. Like, that's so crazy.
Well, that's
so
an
dope.
interesting story. Yeah.
It's so dope.
But yeah, I mean, Xavier Woods, Tommy Earl Jenkins, Naomi Kyle, Raul Coley, like
yeah. Awesome.
But I think one of the big things that really inspires me about your show in particular is what you were just talking about, that idea of projecting diversity, showing people that there's so many different types of people that want to be in this industry and deserve to have their voices heard and should be seen because they've got so much talent and so many things going for them that they could add so much richness to not just the gaming industry, but comic books, movies, etc. And so I just absolutely adore that kind of, I don't know why my brain is blanking right now, but like what Spawn on Me is all about. I love that.
It's been, and thank you for saying that. I am always humbled when people say good things about me in the show. I always try to come to all of this work with the knowledge that it is very special to have the ears of the amount of people that we do every week. We are in an extremely saturated market. There are so many things that are looking to grab your attention every day. So I am infinitely grateful for any person who has ever downloaded our show or listens to our show on a regular basis. Luckily we were able to get to a place most recently where, we were crowdfunding the show and then we could stop because we were getting, we got picked up by Fanbyte. And now the show is making some money. But again, it's like knowing that that the show is doing something that probably no one else is doing right now. Like there are a couple shows that are digging into conversations around diversity. I can count on probably one hand the amount of shows that are run by a person of color that are talking about all the things that we talk about. Cause we were, again, like the beauty of our show is like, there are no things that are off the table. If it's off the table, it's because I don't care about it or I don't want to talk about it that week.
It's just not enough like torture in it. It's just not enough like gore.
Yeah, and like I'm like, come on, like can we like chop up more people?
Also, like if I can't spoil it, like what's the point? Like
yeah, right? Like screw He-Man. You know what happens to He-Man? Like he pulls a sword out his ass and then he puts it in the sky and then he turns into He-Man.
By
like
the power of Grayskull.
Yeah, right. It's like a sword laxative, but but the thing, I love that I just broke Gabe. Is the fact that like we don't get like our show just does a thing that nobody else does, and I would say, look, there are very few shows that get the caliber of folks that we get. And that's the thing that drives me is like, we get to have conversations that nobody else is having in a way that nobody else is having, even if we don't get the props that we should get all the time, for doing the work in that way. It is good to know that people think about legacy, which I'm not really a big fan of. But I feel like the show has laid the groundwork and has kind of planted its flag in a very specific way that I hope will, last for years after the show is done. And that part is what makes all of this super, super fun and interesting and kind of cool.
I think that's one of the hardest parts about social media and the internet as a whole. When you work on something really hard and you put it out there and you think that it's great, and then it gets like, 4 listens or whatever else. And you just wonder why that didn't hit. And then you see someone else post something really similar and they've got 100,000 likes and it came out 2 to 3 days after when you did it. And you're like, well, why didn't mine hit? That travels through all of the internet verse. And sometimes it can be really hard and taxing, but there are causes that should push through that. And I think Spawn on Me is one of those things that, definitely needs to push past that because, like you said, there's not enough people out there doing what you're doing right now.
But also, if I may, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think what you're getting is you're describing more kind of funny than as opposed to your IGNs, and I don't think that's something to worry too much about because, like, you want that loyal but smaller audience as opposed to that sort of mainstream, maybe not so active audience.
Or active.
It's a mix. It's a mix though, because I think like the thing that I have learned about doing the show is that this is the first project that I've ever done that I've actually been really successful at. I've started a lot of projects and they've flamed out, or I've gotten sick of it, or I've gotten tired, or I've quit on it because it wasn't hitting that level of what I had in my mind to be success. And that's been my life for most of it. That's been work. That's been a lot of different layers of me as a human being of like not sticking to a thing. But knowing that this does that layer of good in the world, it makes you really ambitious. And ambition is fucked up. Like people, because ambition opens doors for you in a way that you're just like, oh, if I keep going, we can make this bigger. Oh,
but you have the torture porn to bring down that hubris, right?
I mean, you can always go bigger on torture porn too. Like, have you ever dropped a body off of a roller coaster? Like, nobody's done that. Like,
True,
I mean, Final Destination has done it, but not in slow motion. It was really quick.
So, it's kind of like the body. It's kind of like the body just kind of exploded. There was no actual physics of it hitting. Like we needed more. We needed more of that inertia, that motion.
Let me tell you about the most gruesome.
This is why we're friends.
Let me tell you about one of the most gruesome games I played, Planet Coaster. Oh my god, the amount of people I've killed in that game is just intense.
You know how many leg cramps they got from standing in line so long? This shit is devastating to people. but it is that layer of, again, like ambition. Get those hits and have those bigger shows, that their stuff isn't as good as yours. That's the part that drives you crazy. Is you look at production, or you look at the conversation, or you look at the way that things feel haphazard and slapped together, and you're just like, how the fuck did you get 2 million hits on this thing? When my thing was thought out well, I had good conversation, the production was good, everything sounds good, and we'll get like 2,000 hits on the thing. So that's the stuff that drives you nuts, is because you're just like, there is a layer of quantity versus quality, and there is a level of, zeitgeist that goes around a lot of things. And there's also a layer of just like right time, right visibility that goes along with that stuff. Like, and that part of it is why I think a lot of people, when you're making content, you have to be really targeted at who you ask to share your stuff, while also having the organic layer that usually just goes along with putting out a thing in the world. Like, of course, you gotta market your own stuff real hard, and you gotta share it real hard and all that kind of stuff. But you gotta ask people too who are bigger than you, and you gotta ask people who have different layers of visibility than you to share your stuff out, so that way you get a wider audience who may come back, right? So that's the part of it that's like, I want to, we're not even hitting Kind of Funny numbers on the stuff that we do, but also Kind of Funny puts out like 7,000 things a day, and it has
YouTube channels.
Over 3 YouTubes, and they have a full team of people who are able to do that. I'm like working a 9 to 5 and doing the show and hosting multiple things and also trying to be a reasonable husband. So my wife doesn't stab me in my sleep. Which,
Yes.
Why Women Kill season 4.
I mean, yeah, put it on the Lifetime channel. But that's all the kind of stuff that goes along with being a content creator in this moment, is like trying to figure out ways to get the most benefit out of stuff, and then also just understanding where your cap is. Like, you may have a ceiling, and understanding where that ceiling is okay. Like, even if we're right now at this moment where I can't get any bigger and the show can't get any bigger, I understand from the emails that I get or from the tweets that I get in my DMs, or the fact that we're financially successful in a medium way. I think that's a win. Like, I got a job out of this, right?
You're
Very
still
few people
around,
can say that.
and Ziff Davis isn't. So there's that.
I mean, you're right.
Ouch.
Shout out to all my Ziff Davis fam who is still Ziff Davis. But yeah,
Hey,
like,
I used to buy the AGMs, watch the 1-ups, but even they're not immune to that.
Yeah, and even, I mean, again, is that when you're thinking about the success that you're trying to have, and I tweeted about this earlier this morning, actually, is what do you look at as your metrics for success? Gaming industry, at least in the circles that matter. I'm able to have gotten. So my mama said I matter once. I'm able to get to the people who I need to get to, when that wasn't the case 5 years ago. I got a full that will potentially matter, and I have the ability to kind of maneuver in multiple lanes alongside some of the people who I love in this industry and people who I've looked up to forever. Like, I would have never thought that I would have been like, hey, Jeff Gerber. And those small things like mean a thing if you care about the industry in that way, and the people who like laid down the foundation of what this really is. So again, I think that there is a layer of it that goes across kind of the new blood of the industry, where they don't have that reverence for it. And that lack of reverence for the space diminishes what the potential could be for a lot of those folks when they're like, why isn't my stuff popping? Because you're not talking to the old school cats. The old school cats know all the shit. Mm-hmm. And a lot of new school cats, they're finding it out because they're in a different layer of the ecosystem. So I think those parts are always good to remember and kind of pull back when you're like, well, damn, this thing didn't do well. And I'm like, oh, here are all the things that did do well. Like 2021 has been a wild year for me, but it's also been one of those things where you're always looking to get bigger and always looking to get better. So it's a lot of the spikes and peaks and valleys that go along with it.
So to kind of like go on a tangent a little bit. You've been in the industry for a while. You said you have a lot of experience doing different things, and very notably, you're a big fan of sports. So yes. I gotta ask, are you jealous that Sancho West is working with NBC to like do a co-stream of the Olympics type of thing?
Oh my god, I love Sancho so much. Like I love Sancho. I'm here's the thing. I'll say this because I the word jealous is rough. Yeah, but I will say this.
It's a lighthearted question.
No. And I know where the angle is. I am professionally what's envious of a lot of people.
Okay.
Again, that's why I go to that's the reason I say ambition is fucked up. Because once you do a thing, you're like, oh shit, I want to do that too, and I want to do that too, and I want to do that too, and I want to do that. Like I hosted Dice this year. I hosted GamesBeat this year. I did a whole bunch of stuff, like all the stuff. So when I see stuff that like Sancho does or like Golden Boy does, like I'm not in the layer of Golden Boy yet. Even Paris's stuff, like getting to do the Xbox stuff, all of that stuff, I'm always behind them clapping it up. I'm like, yo, this is fucking dope because I know how hard it is to get into that spot. Mm-hmm. There is a part of it that's just like, man, I wish I could have did that too. That's human. Mm-hmm. I think anybody who says that they're not doing that, they're lying about their ambition. And I'm not a liar. I'll be honest about it and be like, yeah, I would love to have done that thing. That would have been nuts. For me to have been able to shade Paris globally, the way I got shaded, I would have loved to do that. I'm gonna look at all that stuff when Sancho's on, because I also know, like, I was in Sancho's chat way back in the day, right? So like seeing his glow up, and him and Sawyer Mobe and Big Cheese KIT, like all those folks who are like doing all this really dope stuff in the space, I'm always rooting for them, because I'm like, this is what the space needs, and they've bust their asses to get there. That's the thing. I'm usually not jealous of people unless I'm like, you ain't deserve that shit.
Yeah.
You ain't put the time in.
Which there
Like,
have
you
been
ain't
plenty
paid
of
the
people
dues
that
to
have
get
popped
there.
up. I'm not saying Sancho's one of those people, but there have been plenty of people
Nah.
that popped up recently. Like there was like this TikTok girl that was like, I went to
Yeah.
journalism school for 2 months and now look at me at
Oh,
whatever.
that was
Yeah.
infuriating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Infuriating.
It's that kind of stuff that makes you mad, because you're just like, there is an idea that you don't have to pay dues anymore. And I
But it's
think
not just
it
because they
doesn't.
paid his dues, and a lot of these people have paid their dues.
Sancho is one of the dopest cats on the planet. Like, Sancho is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He is like brilliant. He's gotten so much better on camera. He's like put in the time. I mean, he's an actor. He was wanting to be an actor. He was an actor for a bit. So he knows how to play to a camera. He knows how to host a thing. He knows how to do that work. So like, I am looking at stuff that he's doing and trying to pull things from that to be like, oh, that was really smart the way you bridged that conversation from here to there. Oh, that was really interesting the way that you pulled that guest in. How do you ask that question? That one of the things I love about doing this work, and it's like, it's the best thing that you can tell a podcaster is like, damn, that was a really good question you just asked me. Like, that shit is like crack. Someone was like, oh, you just asked me a really good question, and like, you appreciated the question I asked you, and it was thoughtful. Like, that is the biggest compliment you can give to a host or someone doing that stuff. So it's like Sancho and everybody else doing the stuff at the Olympics. The thing that I'm actually mad about is not the fact that they're hosting it, is the fact that I poked people at Twitch a year ago and was like, I know the Olympics is coming. I want to be a part of it. Hook me up. And I didn't get a thing on that. I'm mad about that. There's two things I'm mad about: that, and I'm mad I didn't get the Fauci interview that they did the other day, because I asked for that too. I was like, yo, we're gonna be doing stuff. Let me get Fauci. Like, help me get Fauci on the show. And then other people got picked for it. So I am not jealous of the fact that those people are doing the work, but I'm just like, I raised my hand for that thing before anybody else was talking about it. Don't try to make it seem like I don't know and that I wasn't paying attention to it.
The Olympics has always had weird broadcasting rules and like who gets the rights or whatever. But yeah, the Fudge thing is weird. I guess on a different kind of note, on a lighter note, what do you think of the Olympics so far this year? Because Naomi Osaka lighting that torch was,
that Google Doodle is really cool.
So beautiful.
I mean, they always do a really good job of fanfare. The hard part is, again, it's like you're in a pandemic, so it's like you don't having no crowd feels very, very limp in that way. So I'm the weird person who, because I love the Olympics. I know that there's a lot of beef about the Olympics, and there should be, because of the way the IOC does things and the way that, you build all these structures and then they stay there, and then you murder the economy of the place that you go. Yeah, I understand the problematic parts of the Olympics. Like, I understand them. But also, I'm a huge sports fan. I love sports. I love seeing people compete. I love seeing people who have spent their whole entire being trying to be this one thing and then getting to the pinnacle of what that potential thing may be. I don't know how that works when you're doing it in 3v3 basketball. Fuck that. That shit is stupid. But
I saw that and I was like, what?
Excuse me. I was like, pickup ball is now fucking in the Olympics? Like, my fat ass should have been in that shit. I can set a good ass screen for a silver medal. Fuck that. That's stupid.
I was like scrolling through the channels and like, what's half court? What?
Here's the weird. I was like, oh, this is the big three, but in the Olympics? What? But here's the weird thing. And the thing that, because I will stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the Olympics, because I'm that kind of person. I'm like, ooh, badminton's coming up. Yo, I got to stay up.
I was watching equestrian this morning.
Word, like stupid shit. Like, equestrian is fucking stupid because it's not even a sport.
It's
not a sport. It's not a sport. You know why it's not a sport? Because the human ain't doing shit. The horse does all the fucking work. It's not a fucking sport. Equestrian is not a sport. Anyway, but my dumb ass will stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning to go watch people play table tennis, because I love the fact that, again, all these people are like sending their best to the Olympics to go do this thing. And hopefully they'll have their one shining moment, and then they get to go home and do that thing and be like, I was an Olympian and I potentially won a thing. Like, I think that that's still beautiful in the way that we think about sport, because so much of sport now is just because of money and access and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can get some random kid from the Bronx who was like really good at fencing magically and have that person go to the Olympics and represent the country, and be a superstar for a week, right? Like,
Yeah.
people forget, because the other thing is also like, people get mad at Olympians and all this other stuff. I was like, Olympians are the like epitome of 15 minutes of fame. Because no one knows who the fuck the
You
last
got a week
fencing.
and then 4 years.
Yeah,
Nobody.
you're hot for 4 years. You're hot for a week every other 4 years, right? Like,
Every other
that's
3
wild.
years, I guess.
That's wild. It's like a Kanye album. It's like it happens, but it happens very sporadically. It is a big bump, and then that's it. So, but I love the Olympics. I know people are poo-pooing on it and shitting on it and all that kind of stuff, but I'm like, man, look, this is some of the coolest stuff for some of the weirdest semi-sports that you would ever see in your life. Handball is a sport. I rock with that. People are jumping around and they're sweating.
Yo, we got
Equestrian is
skateboard.
not a fucking sport.
We got
Skateboarding is dope.
Yeah.
Skateboarding is a sport. I think skateboarding is a sport. Archery is a sport. Because that takes a skill. Now you got me looking at all the sports now. I gotta look at the sports. I gotta look and see which ones are on the list.
I can
Because
talk
now
about
I
the
gotta
Olympics
see.
all day, dude. When I was
Okay,
like,
so
I'm not gonna keep it on that, but I gotta
Sorry,
look at some of them.
I was just gonna say we do have community questions to get to.
I'm
before,
sorry.
Yes.
I'm
before
so
we,
sorry.
we tap out.
And I know I said I could stay for about an hour, but if you want me for longer, I'm down.
Okay.
Nice.
Really quickly,
I was
just to
adhering
give
to
you-
the hour.
Just
No,
to give you
I
an
know.
idea-
That's the reason I was trying to find a way to like type it somewhere so I could be like, I can go for longer.
Oh, you can
just to
always
give you-
you know DM me.
Just to give you a
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
idea of like how much I loved the Olympics growing up, during the 2012 London Olympics, I drew and colored every nation's flag that was at the Olympics, and I just
That's
did that.
beautiful.
And it was all over my room. I hung them all over the place.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just love the Olympics so much.
Like hold on. Like rhythmic gymnastics, that's a sport. Sport climbing? Fuck that. That's not a sport. Trampoline? Fuck out of here. That's not a sport.
That's recreation.
That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. That's fucking science, fam. That's not a sport. You're bouncing on a fucking piece of rubber and flipping around. That's gymnastics, but on rubber. Fuck out of here. That's not a thing. Golf? Not a sport. It's a skill. It's not a sport. Anyway,
Now, what would you change in golf to make it a sport?
you have to run.
Speed golf. Yeah, I was about to say.
Make it Mario Speed Golf, and then we got a sport. You have a cart. Motherfuckers drive you
It's
around.
lazy as hell.
You don't even get to carry the shit that you use to make the sport. You don't even carry the clubs. You got a whole ass human carrying your shit to help you do the thing that you get paid to do. Get the fuck out of here.
Now, I'm not gonna lie.
All I hear is facts.
If people started like having to carry their bags and
Yes.
jump over obstacles after hitting their ball and then just running to it and then hitting to the next point and just watching them wear down as they get to the 18th hole, I would probably watch that.
We gotta we gotta apply for the IOC for the next Olympics and just like try to organize our events next year.
Put 2 bricks in the bottom of every golf bag and have people walk around carrying those golf bags for 18 holes on their own while also having to hit their shot. That then becomes a sport. Right now it's a skill.
What about the luge?
Luge takes skill because you have to understand inertia and body weight. Like that is the thing you have to do in tandem with other people. So yes, I will rock with luge. See, you went into winter sports, which is a whole other conversation right there. Oh my god! Like the wildest one, to be fair, is not even luge; it's skeleton. Because skeleton is actually and I love curling. So curling is not a sport, but it is one of my favorite things on the planet.
You're just cleaning the ice.
You're sweeping. But I didn't have props for curlers until I curled once. And I was like, this is fucking hard. This is not easy. Of course, I'm talking all this stuff and couldn't do any of the things that are in any of these sports. because I have an IT man's body.
Which is why they're over there and I'm over here. Like,
yeah, exactly. I am totally on the TV side of the sport. I'm like, you are all actual athletes and doing that kind. Like sport versus athlete, there's another delineation there. Like all of them are athletes. I can't say everything is a sport. That's different.
Sorry,
And
I totally
rant.
diverted the fucking podcast.
and rant.
That was great. I loved every moment of that. That was it. That was a direction I didn't know we were going to go during this show, and I loved
Me either.
it.
I love it.
Me either.
Love it.
Let's get into the community stuff, shall we?
All right. So,
Al, you got anything over there?
Real
I
quick,
got a couple,
before we get through those, I just want to give all the love shout outs real quick in one fine burst here. So we have Aaron Roots, who says, get Vicious696 to drop in and talk about his cooking skills, which, I mean, whatever.
Screw that guy.
Can't even get him to reply to me about coming onto the show. So.
Oh yeah. See, look
yeah.
at that dude. Look at that dude.
Yaz Media says, tell him he's one of my favorite content creators and that his food is better than Paris.
True. Get that person to spawn on me shirt.
Aaron, awesomely averaged Shawnee says, okay, Sini, thank you. Says Ka is a 10 out of 10 guest. Looking forward to this one.
Agreed, and thank you.
Jason Cursed Souls Kerr at cursed_souls says, as an NBA fan, that is a great shirt, and I totally agree.
It says Bandolin.
My Bandolin shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, what is this in reference to?
The picture you used that you chose the picture. So.
Yeah, no. I didn't think about the picture that he was in. I was like, is there some reference that I'm missing? And then when you said
to bring it back,
like, oh, got it.
The NBA is the only thing I ever stayed up till 4 a.m. to watch. So
reasonable.
There's that. Yeah.
He lives on the other side of the world, so there's that.
And then we have Ben at Please Be Excited that says he's some New Zealander.
Oh, he's the Australian.
Some guy from
Australia.
Australia.
He's a Kiwi.
Yes,
he's from Tasmania or something like that. I don't know.
He says, can you tell him that I think he's awesome and that I really respect and appreciate what he has done for people of color in the industry? He inspires me. Little heart.
Thank you. That is amazing, kind and sweet. I appreciate that. Has that person ever looked at gore porn?
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right, I have to.
We watched Fear Street, Phil. We watched
Fear Street is not gore porn.
He's not a horror.
We're talking we're talking about like Poughkeepsie tapes. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, the Poughkeepsie tapes is so good. Everyone watch the Poughkeepsie tapes.
Before we get into the community questions, you want me to shoot myself in the foot, Phil? Is that what
yes,
you want?
Please,
is that where you sent me the question? The question I submitted was like, hey Paris, you got any questions? That's what I commented on that post. I just wanted to spice up the show, but it turns out we didn't need him to spice it up.
Oh my goodness.
His food needs to spice, though.
I don't think anybody ever needs Paris to spice things up. Sorry, I don't know what I'm saying. But on that same vein, Elliot from TOR_Elliot on Twitter, he says, who's killed more people with their cooking, Kahlief or Paris?
Have you seen Paris's food though? Like, have you just looked at it? It looks like if you took a meat bag from Fallout 3 and put it on a table, and then put ketchup on it, and then heated it up.
Ketchup before heating it up.
It's like a Trump steak. It's bad. It just looks like everything bad in the world put together. It's awful stuff. Paris Lily. No, just playing. I'm not gonna do it. People are gonna get sick of us though in a minute. They're gonna be like, "Shut the fuck up and cook something already for real."
Yo, and that's when he gets their studio, man. I'm just saying.
I keep joking that when the showdown happens, I want to be there. I want tickets.
We got to figure it out. It'll probably happen somewhere down in California for sure.
I would kill to try Kahlief Adam steak. Like I would fucking give anything to try on.
I'm just saying, I can cook. I'm on point.
Well,
That's a very interesting joke. Okay. Because what steak are we talking about there, Caesar? Okay, I'm sorry.
I just want to put his meat. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Al, you got anything over there?
I love you.
much,
That is
Caesar.
amazing.
I love you so much.
I love you so much. That's so good.
Reese Boy says, "What are you excited for the rest of 2021?"
My meat? No, just playing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out that's going to be really fun. I think Psychonauts 2 is going to be great. I am extremely excited for Battlefield again. Like Spawn on Me, the name of the show comes from Battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
There are just so many good games that are going to be coming out so soon that it's like we are in like such good times in a video game space. Like I'm not going to do the like, have you heard of Game Pass? But it's like one of those things of just like, there's so many.
Game Pass?
Yo, you ever heard of Game Pass? Like there's so many things right now that are out or coming out this year and soon. Like those couple of games, I'm still playing through Death's Door, which is fantastic. I'm waiting for Atomic Heart to drop. Whenever that drops, that game has been on my list for a very long time. Like whenever the hell that's gonna happen. There's good stuff out there. It's just so many things are gonna get kind of pushed out in the world, and we'll see what happens after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a community question from Kesselwinks at Kesselwinks. He says, now you responded to this one, so you already know it, but he said, what's your main lane now that Runeterra has a taste of Brookago in it?
Oh, I mean, I like to play, I'm a jungle. I like to play jungle. I'm a jungler. So like that's the lane that I play.
See, I took this question more to be like, which of the games either out now or coming are you playing right now, or are you most excited for? Or
in the Riot space, Valorant is the one that I'm probably the most interested in because it is the kind of easiest analog for what I am able to do. Even though of the games that are out, I started in the MOBA space before I would have started in the kind of first person shooter space. I'm bad at League. I'm trying to learn how to play League well, because I started my MOBA space video game playing with Paragon from Epic.
Oh, nice.
Which I miss and I love, and I want to play more of that game, but they got shut down. So yeah, I'm trying to learn the MOBA space as much as I can to get into that, so I can actually be decent at it.
Weird question. Do you think if Fortnite had hit a year earlier, do you think Paragon would still be around today? With that extra income, that little bit of extra Epic money?
Wild story. I was one of the first gaming jobs that I was looking to go get. I had went to Epic Studios to go interview for a Paragon position. I was going to try to work on their community team. And I was going and in the interview process, I was like towards the end of the interview process, and I didn't get it. But because I was too new to that layer of the industry, 2 to 3 weeks after that was when they announced that Paragon was going to get folded because Fortnite started to pop off. I was playing Fortnite when there wasn't a BR part of it, when it was just Save the World,
which I enjoyed.
And Save the World was great. Save the World was great. They did a bad job of like telling you what the fuck to actually do, but they knew that was going to be a part of the process of like getting that game better. And then they just came out with the BR part of it, all playing around and messing around with stuff, and then created this whole genre now in this way. I don't think it would have stayed. I don't think it would have stuck. I think it would have done some cool things, but it would have gotten dwarfed by Fortnite anyway. With the BR kind of aspect of it. If they'd never made the BR part of it and just kept it as Save the World, then Paragon would have had a space to live. Yep.
Lastly, Kessel says, big congrats on becoming a rioter. The pop when I found out was equal to that of Cena showing up at Money in the Bank.
That Cena pop was so good.
Yeah, and this is awesome. Chance all for you, Ka, which is awesome.
I thank you. It is amazingly cool to feel like that is a thing that I worked myself into. You know what I mean? Like that's hard. It wasn't like, some random person was like, "Hey, go. Do you want to do this kind of thing?" I was like a person who I really respect, put that position in front of me and was like, "I think the work that you're doing in this industry is worth you applying for this." And that meant the world to me because that person is very, very good at what they do. And continues to put me in good positions by being a mentor and you know thank you for that. I appreciate that a bunch. I'm hoping that I can do some real cool stuff at Riot, and then you'll hopefully be able to see me doing that stuff publicly in some form or fashion, which would be super cool. Because then I get to shade Paris on a Riot stage, which would be dope.
I think my biggest hope is that when they finally launch this fighting game that they've announced but given us nothing else, and I'm very sad about, I hope that you are one of the commentators for like the first esports tournament. That's my big hope right now.
Phil's
Now,
just saying that
like
so you'll put in
pie
a
in the
good word
sky.
for him, and you guys will hire him as voice actor. He does that to every
What's wrong
developer
with
we have
that?
on the show.
We need someone to do a good David Hayter. And
Let him plug his stuff.
Exactly.
But for
him
like
do
a
his
quarter of
Let
the
him hit
price,
more
right?
gauge, dude. Let him do his
Yeah.
Dude.
That's funny.
And I'm guessing the last community question we have is one that I have, and it's not really a question. It's from Simply Sassy member Robin GL, who all he wrote was Elden Ring ?
I mean, that was my answer back to that would be Elden Ring ? Nobody knows. It's a pretty ass game where you run up mountains on a horse. It's like the Olympics with the equestrian stuff. It's basically
the equestrian of video games.
Yeah. Basically.
There's definitely a lot of questions surrounding how that game is going to play out. It's because it's definitely not going to be a standard Souls game, but it's not going to be quite the same divergence as something like Sekiro. Because you are going to have these deeper RPG elements, it seems like, with the like summonable creatures and different things you can level up and the way you can customize attacks and stuff like that. I'm really interested to see how that game's going to turn out.
I hope it's good.
I mean, I think that they have the formula, right? Like they know what to do. It's now, I think it's just a matter of how big and how pretty that game is going to wind up being, which I think is, again, I think that that's one of those also like, and I don't want to circle it back to gore porn, but it's like the people who like those games visually is because you get all that weird, nasty grossness in it. You get all that like funkiness that you're like, is that an arm? Is that a leg? Is that a tusk? Is that a tentacle? Like, what is that? And can I shoot it and can I chop it off? Like that's the kind of stuff, right? So I think Elden Ring is going to be in a really good place for that because I think that again, like they're playing up to their strengths in a way that a lot of teams don't. They have figured out their secret sauce and they continue to kind of move in that direction, which has been great.
I have a question from the community. It's from Hoodie at the Penny Marvels.
Oh.
And he asks this pretty much every one of our guests. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. Like I it's been interesting. This week has been heavy. And it's been, something where as a person who loves the industry, it hurts my soul to hear the stories that have come out around, the Blizzard Activision stuff and all the other kind of parts of that. But I, as a person who has been very cynical for a lot of his life and is learning to kind of spin that cynicism into something more positive from not only for me, but in the way that I kind of interact. I always try to take audit of where I'm at. And I think that that's a thing that is really important for me to kind of continue to be a person in this space. Social media is a shit show. People are mean to you all the time for no reason.
Spoiling your
yeah, like people have an idea around what you are as opposed to who you actually are. And that stuff can lean into you and be a dig to you all the time. But the thing that I lean on that makes me makes me say that I'm good and I'm in a good spot is that I am doing things that make me happy pretty much all the time. Or at least I'm leaning into stuff that I care about, and I've figured out ways to maneuver into spaces around things that I care about a lot more than I was able to do before. My wife the other day, she, you know, I was starting the first day at Riot, and she looked at me and you know, we're in a fantastic space in our relationship and our marriage. We're almost going to celebrate our 10th year next year. And she looked at me and she was like, "I'm proud of you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "What I do? I took the garbage out. What do you want?" But she's like, "No." She's like, "Seriously." She's like, "I'm proud of you because you have figured out a way to use this hobby that you've started to make the world a little bit better and to get yourself in a position to do a thing that you've always wanted to do." That is extremely rare that people get a chance to say that out loud. And have that be a thing that the thing that I get to produce every week speaks to so many different people from so many different walks of life. As a person who was told so often from people in my life, you know, way back in the day, from people who used to be like guidance counselors at my school, you know, people would tell me all the time, like, "Kyle, you're never going to be shit. Like you're just not going to be that person." And to see that I'm able to be shit is nice. Is cool. Like, you know, I think I try to frame everything in those ways, and that's the reason why, you know, a lot of people, they kind of get my ass online and like, "Yo, Kyle, you mad positive. Why are you so positive all the time?" And I was like, because if I think about where I should be, I shouldn't be here. I grew up in the Bronx in the late 70s and early 80s when crack was like rampant. I've seen so many people be hurt. I've seen people die. I've seen people go through terrible things. And the fact that I'm here, you know, I'll be 43 in another month, actually, to the day. Like that's a thing to celebrate. And to have people say, "Hey, Kai, I want you to come on a show and talk about the work you've done," or, "Hey, Kai, I want you to talk about, you know, your views on a thing." Coming from a scope of people saying that your words and your deeds don't matter. That's kind of beautiful and it's kind of amazing, right? Like I think that that's the thing that a lot of people don't get a chance to do. And I feel very, you know, I'm not a religious person at all. Actually, I'm an atheist, but it's like I feel blessed by that. You know, like that's a blessing to me. And getting a chance to kind of share that with other people feels important and feels special, and I feel lucky to be able to do it. So, to the person that asked that question, I'm good. I'm real good.
Thank you. That's a beautiful answer.
Yeah,
I kind of hate to ruin like such a.
Are you going to talk about gore
moment.
porn again?
I got to do it. I got to do it. But it's a really bad transition to what I was going to ask you. We're recording this July 24th. It is Saturday. Wednesday was when all the Activision Blizzard stuff dropped. I don't want to go into details about all
on
of
my
that
birthday,
stuff.
jerks.
I want to go into details about what happened there. Really, people probably already know, more than likely. But if you don't, just sexual assault allegations came out. There's a lawsuit that dropped.
Somebody just the in-game culture too, or the in workplace culture too.
It's horrible. But what I wanted to ask you, as somebody that's been in the industry in multiple different roles.
Yep.
Recently, games news journalists or media or whatever said that they're going to stop covering Activision Blizzard until some change is made as a whole. And I kind of want to see, I kind of want to know what your take on that was. Should we stop covering, like, because I'm trying to break my way into this industry as like a news person as well.
Yep.
And like, if something bad comes out about a company, do we just stop covering that company until systemic change is made, like until like positive change is made so that they can learn the lesson? Or do we keep covering them and act like nothing happened and just report the news as it happens?
I think it's an interesting balance where, like, we talked about this prior to me to the show starting today. Is like I have an episode that's I'm already late on my episode for this week. It was usually our show drops on Fridays, but I didn't do it because of multiple things that are happening, and I still haven't recorded that show yet. one of the reasons was because of the conversations around the Blizzard stuff. It's a hard conversation to have, especially when you don't know what to add to it. Like a reason I don't sometimes dig into a particular topic on Spawn on Me is not because I'm afraid to dig into it. There are no taboos on our show. But knowing that I don't have anything good to add to the conversation besides what we've already had in the conversation. Because like, think about this. The Blizzard Activision stuff is another layer of things that we've seen over the past 20 years in this industry. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about those things in a really honest and forthright, truthful way. We need to be talking about that stuff, because if you don't, then you wind up losing that information to the kind of wins. It winds up kind of in the same ways that a lot of abusers continue to get air cover. Conversations that don't revolve around that stuff or don't bring it up help to shield a lot of the people who are continuing to be abusers in the space. The other layer of it, which I think is actually a really interesting tangent around the way social media affects the work that you do, is I'm on social media all the time. I'm on Twitter all the time. I have so many industry peers that I care about and love. I am a person who continues to try to be, a voice person within the space in the lanes that I occupy, while also trying to signal boost and lift up people who I can through allyship and through good words and deeds. The hard part about that is none of the things that we're saying this week were different than the things that we said 7 months ago, 8 months ago, 10 months ago about stuff that's happened in the industry. We know that this industry treats women terribly. We know that this women treats marginalized folks terribly. We know that this industry treats folks in the accessibility space terribly. We know that these things are true. None of those things have changed. That's not true. I'm not going to say that because it's not true. There are things that have changed within the industry. They're not big sweeping changes. They are very small changes that have happened over time, which is the way most change happens. It's incremental in the way that it winds up working. The thing that is the most disheartening is the fact that these particular stories are so egregious in a company that is that big, that touches so much stuff. I think if this was this would be a story if it was a smaller company, but knowing the way that the wage disparity works from the top down makes this story even worse. The way that people were talked about in terms of, women of color, and some of the horrific acts that happened within that company. As an industry, we have to talk about it. I think that there are people who should be at the forefront of that conversation, and I think there should be people who support that conversation from the other side of it. Right now, I feel like my best ability to do anything is through the support side of it. And to be fair, through the working from the inside out. Like, I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. Like, I can't speak about anything from a Riot perspective. That's not my place, because I've not been there long enough to have any of those conversations.
Yeah, of course.
But I do think that the work that I've tried to do, and the reason why I'm actually really excited to be at a place like that now, and when I was doing the work over at Intel, is that I am working with people who want to make everything better. The way you make things better is a long, long, long slog. It's never going to be fast. There's a layer of all of this that is like, humans do human shit all the time. Humans do terrible shit to each other all the time. It is a interesting part of our DNA that people don't want to really dig into. It's probably the reason why I like horror so much, to be fair, to circle it back. Is because no one wants to say that stuff out loud in that way. It's like, humans do human shit. And you got to expect humans to do human shit. This is a layer of human shit that is compounded by capitalism, compounded by misogyny, compounded by all those other things, sexism and racism, all that kind of stuff that, again, humans have made and have done human shit with, right? So I think the idea of like, should I not cover their games or play their games or do all that kind of stuff? I am a proponent of saying that the thing that you can do as a consumer that makes the most sense, if you are not directly attached to a company or doing stuff within the game industry proper, is you have the power of your wallet. The power of your wallet actually makes sense in a lot of different ways that a lot of people don't want to actually say has enough sway. The problem is when you're in the gaming industry proper, we are all in a bubble, right? And we're in an interesting bubble because we see shit, we say shit, and we talk to ourselves in that bubble more than the people who are outside of that bubble who play Madden every year, and that's the only game they buy.
Yeah.
They're not looking at our stuff. They didn't give a shit about what we say. So if everybody in the gaming industry was like, I'm going to boycott Blizzard and Activision, I'm never going to buy another thing, I'm not going to cover their stuff, that circle of influence isn't as wide as we think it is.
What about the people that play Call of Duty every year, but they don't watch KFGD or Spawn on Me or?
Yeah, those people they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They're not looking. They're not going to Kotaku to go read that conversation. They're not doing that work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think to a certain extent, unless that information gets outside of that sphere of influence in that bubble, a lot of this is not necessarily performative, because I don't think it's performative. I think it actually has weight, and I think it actually matters in lots of different ways. I just don't think it matters in the ways that we think it does.
Mm-hmm.
It winds up being a thing where we in the industry also use a lot of this to name and shame our peers as well. There's a lot of it that gets used to make yourself look bigger and to make yourself look pious in a way that is unuseful. So to me, I'm like, you can say all the stuff you want to say. Are you doing anything about it? Like, that's my thing about all of this is like, we can chop it up. We can clap our hands and do all the things about like, we want to not support this. We want to not buy money here. We want to not cover the game. We might not want to stream it. Once you've done that, if that's the only thing you're doing, then that's not enough. That's almost
like,
very slim.
I love this analogy because that's basically what you're saying. It's like you're the only people who can yell out their rooftops are the people in this small bubble of a neighborhood. And it's just like, no matter how these people know what the problem is, what you want is for the mainstream to be informing casual gamers and so on. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're hitting that note. I think the thing that is most important when we have these conversations about like these systematic things is that they are systematic.
Mm-hmm.
The gaming industry is a reflection of the gaming community is a reflection of the bigger culture always. That's the thing that people forget all the time. All the racism that we see that comes into the gaming spaces, that's coming from the culture. That's never not been here. That's always been here. It is a thing that those folks are now becoming gamers. It's not gamers becoming racists. It is racist. You know what I mean? It's like racism are like, oh, this is my pastime. I do this shit. Oh, I shoot these people over here and I call them towel heads. Oh, they were racist already. They just picked up a controller and found a new way to get that racism out. Right. So I think that's the conversation that is a layer that we should have that we don't ever have. And it makes it feel like there's this extra heavy pressure for everyone else to conform to that so that you can also be in the space that is like, yo, I'm mad woke and I do all this stuff and it feels good for me to do this stuff out loud. And that's cool, but is it actually doing anything? And I think that's the part that matters to me is like, are you doing shit? Are you shutting it down at your own workplace? Are you telling your friends to be able to have those conversations and informing them in ways that matter? Are you holding people's feet to fires in ways that actually like contribute to not only shutting things down, but also lifting people up who are doing the work? Like we're going to have Patricia Hernandez on the show, EIC of Kotaku this week, on the 28th, right?
Nice.
One of the dope things about the work that she's doing is that, and I think Kotaku gets a lot of unnecessary shit, right? In the ways that they have worked over the years. And one of the conversations that I want to dig into is like, how much of the conversation in the same ways that we put out the story about like all the people who aren't doing shit, how are we uplifting the people who are doing stuff? That's just as powerful if you're running an outlet or if you're a part of the press or if you're a part of the same You know, I love I'm as progressive as anybody else. But the thing that we do really badly is we don't lift up people in a way that is like, here's good stuff. Nobody talks about good stuff. It's bad to do it right now. Now is not the time to be like, well, here's all the terrible shit. Here's some great things that happened over here. Like, that's not the time to do it. But over the course of the conversation about what this gaming industry can be, we do a terrible job of showing the people who are trying to incrementally make things better. We don't do enough of those stories. So that you think about the gaming industry, and a lot of people are jaded, and a lot of people, to be fair, shouldn't be in the industry anymore. You should dip out. Like, there's a lot of people who should have dipped out a long time ago. They're bitter, they're mad, and they're mean. And that's okay, but you're not adding anything to the space anymore besides being bitter, mad, and mean. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a layer of that conversation that also, for people who are on your same side, and there's a reason why I was talking about that thing about the Kotaku article last week about the this game looks like shit.
The mobile
gotcha game, right?
Oh my
and
God.
I was like, look, that's dope. I understand the essence of what you're trying to say here. But when you do that work in this way, you inflame the same people who could potentially be on your side. That doesn't do anyone any good. Who's that for? Like, what audience is that for? So again, that conversation about, like, from a press perspective, from a gaming industry perspective, like, should we talk about it? Absolutely. We need to continue to hold feet to the fire. My want and my hope is that alongside the people naming and shaming people, which you need to do in this case, naming and shaming is the thing I don't necessarily always care about when it comes to accountability culture, because there's no road for redemption for most people. That's a whole other conversation. But I think that the way you make things better, and the things that you're seeing people who are being reasonable talk about it, is like, these are systematic things that you need to root out at the core of what you want to root out. That's a conversation that's more than just about games. That's about power dynamics, men being men doing men shit. All those kinds of layers of stuff that are under the surface. But a lot of times it gets lost in the conversation because we're talking about things in these kind of not obtuse ways, but we're talking about things in these kind of, like, very broad sense ways that don't necessarily have any ability to kind of get to the root of, like, how do you fix it? Like, what's the actionable thing here? What's the thing that I can actually do that you already didn't say the last 5 times, right? Because I already know all the other stuff of, like, all the things that happened last time. I already know those things. It's like the conversation would be like, men are trash. Have you heard that?
Yep.
Conversation on the internet of, like, men are garbage, men are trash, and then people being like, yo, I ain't trash. And be like, yeah, I know I'm not trash, so I'm not fighting that argument. But there's a lot of dudes out here who are trash, right?
So
it's that kind of stuff.
There's one of these things that I always love to see. There was, like, a big uproar, I think maybe last year or the year before, where it was like a sign that said, like, cis white men need not apply, or something like along those lines on a sign. And when I look at that sign, I don't see that as, like, oh, they're attacking cis white men. I see that as, this sign is there to point at those people who are going to get mad at that sign and be like, you're exactly the person we don't want.
People tell on themselves all the time. People tell on themselves on the internet all the time. Like, the whole conversation that happened some years ago that is still proliferating is the whole men are trash thing. And this one woman said it really, really smartly. She was like, look, if you're not trash, you ain't got nothing to be mad about.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm trying to do my job. I'm trying to do the best that I can to be a good dude. While, again, also trying to figure out ways to, again, look at those situations and insert myself in the conversation to, like, help people get better, or, stop somebody from being sexist or misogynist when I see it, and looking at all the kind of, like, small things that happen throughout a day, and being vocal about those things. Like, I don't think you have to brag about doing the work if you're doing the work, but there's a need now for you to brag about doing the work. And if you don't talk about a thing, people side eye you and be like, well, why isn't somebody saying a thing about this thing? I'm like, sometimes you don't have to be in the conversation to still get work done. Like, that's a part of it. You don't always have to be performative in the words that people love to use. You don't have to always be performative about your allyship. Just do the fucking work, and then the industry gets better. So, again, long answer to short question, but it's
was
all those things together.
That was fantastic.
That-
I love that.
I really appreciate that answer because like it's just been a really weird week of trying to like seeing everybody like fight
Navigate.
over it and like yeah your answer really helped a lot. I would
Yeah,
say.
it's hard. It's not easy when these things happen because there's the thing that I'll shut up after this part is there are so many people who are hurting right now. So to make it about yourself is the worst thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing that you can do is not necessarily like silence doesn't mean complicity. It doesn't mean that you're complicit. I think that that's also kind of wrong. When people are like, oh, if you're not saying anything right now, you're complicit. Also, people are tired. Like from an emotional standpoint, like people are tired.
I think
Me
it was
included.
Hassan and Haj, host of Patriot Act. He said like you only have so much energy to care about so many things. You know,
Yeah. Like we live in the most, and this is like not a like anti-millennial thing, but it's like because a lot of people are going to take it that way. But I think there's a very different layer in the way that I grew up in the way that we were taught to kind of share emotions. And there is no wrong. Like there is no wrong. I think the thing that is different is the way that those emotions get shared now. And it's great that we live in the most feelings time of all times right now. Everyone has feels about everything all the time. The difference is that all those feelings come out in places that aren't necessarily always helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And things get lost in translation with those medias.
Oh my God, all the time. People.
So you're trying to communicate
emotion
through a media that doesn't communicate emotion.
That doesn't do that well at all. Right. And it is that thing of like, you wind up hitting a wall of your own empathy. And I'm doing that now. Like I've hit a wall of empathy. It is hard now for me to be as empathetic as I used to be because it's a constant cycle of everyone saying how everything is fucked up and the world is terrible and everything's bad. And everybody should shut the fuck up about everything. And you can't talk about this. And you shouldn't be injecting yourself into this conversation. And I tell people all the time, I was like, look, the way you get a lot of things done, at least in my life that I've seen work. Sadly, a lot of that stuff winds up happening in intimate circles. The internet is a hard place to turn people, right? But I think if you walk into a conversation not looking at people as the enemy first, of course, there are people who are shitbags and terrible. They look like Paris is cooking, and that's whatever. But I think you can walk into a conversation not with your wall so high and say, I don't know who you are. I don't know where you're coming from. I know that the thing you're saying is coming from a place of hurt. And hurt people all the time. And I understand that that's a part of it. It's the reason why I talk to people in this very specific way online. I pop off sometimes, I'm human. But for the most part, I will walk up to any conversation with the idea of saying, you don't have to be friends. You don't have to understand me, but I will be able to say truth to you. I will be able to say my truth to you. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to absorb it. But it doesn't mean that I have to shit on you as a human being because I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know what your circumstances are. I don't know if you're just being a dick just to be a dick, or if you actually have some issues and you need to get some help with that. Like there's a lot of the mix that's in between there. But to some people, that's automatic. Like you are all terrible human beings and you can't do that work. And I think that even in a progressive standpoint is to the detriment of us getting the work done. The blessing and the curse of and I'm sorry I got into politics about this stuff, but the blessing and the curse about the progressive side of everything is that everyone has a grievance and we're all walking through the same door. That's fine if you recognize that. But the thing that happens is while you're shooting that arrow at the people who are shitty in front of you, you wind up hitting the people who are on your side in the back all the time. All the time. I'm like, oh, that person down there is a racist. That dude's a Nazi. Oh, shit. I'm going to tell him that dude's a Nazi. You just walked in front of my arrow, though, because you have the same kind of grievance that I have, but just from a different angle. So somebody gets hit that you didn't want to get hit. And we don't give each other enough grace to be able to understand that that's a part of, that we're all moving in the same direction, but we also need to give each other some grace. We also need to give each other the ability to fuck up, learn from it, and have some redemption. But we don't do that work. That's not a part of it right now because everything is about being mad. And if you're not mad, then you're not a part of the solution, which is also not right.
I think an interesting part of this conversation as well is the fact that everything drops off so quickly. You know, like we were talking about Blizzard and Taiwan and equality a long time ago, and all of a sudden they release a Diablo 4 trailer and everyone is like, I'm back in. Let's go play Overwatch. Let's
That was the hard part about the EA stuff though, right? Where it was like and I saw somebody say this online. They were like, I wonder if EA did this so that they could help cover up the Blizzard thing. I was like, no, they've been playing this thing for fucking months.
Yeah.
But also, I think that there is a space to be able to, again, if you're a person who is a caring human being, you can, and a person who is nuanced and reasonable, you can look at both things and they both exist in the same sphere, and you can both abhor one thing and love one thing on the other end of it, and talk about your fandom while the other thing is happening. But there's a weird space where like people are like, well, if you're not just as mad as me about the same thing, then you're just not in the same space. And I'm just like, I don't have to be as mad as you all the time, fam. Like that's not the way it works.
The internet likes to think that everything is black and white, but it really just isn't the case like that.
It's all gray. It's all gray, but people, they exactly want everything to be black and white for sure.
But yeah, that social media drop off is really interesting, like how it comes in waves and things disappear and reappear. And I think that also affects how slow or fast change happens as well, which is interesting. However, to move away from this topic,
I'm
going to go into a fun question that we ask every single guest on the show. And
what a transition.
It comes from
good transition.
One of our Simply Sassy members, Ben, please be excited. We talked about him earlier.
Who?
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's some New Zealander.
He's Australian. All right, cool.
Tasmania, yeah.
So he has a question that we ask every person. He hasn't asked it in a while because he's been on break. We respect that. He needs some time away. We love him. But anyway, Greg Miller, kind of funny.
Oh God, who?
You know this guy? You know. I think he's some American, probably from Kansas. I think. Something like that. I don't remember.
That's the guy from Team Fat that eats the wings. That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, the
fog machine. Turn on the fog machine.
So he has this insane ability to be everywhere. He'll be doing a live on video podcast, but somehow he'll be liking tweets, liking Instagrams, replying to emails, replying to DMs, sending a text message to his wife to let him know that he's going to be home on time, even though right now that doesn't matter because, they're all at home. But he'll be doing all these crazy things all at the same time.
He'll be crying on stream and then 20 minutes later be at fucking E3 hosting whatever.
And laughing. Yeah, it's so crazy. We want to know what you think Greg Miller is. Like, we've had responses that, he's got a revitalization chamber in his back room, that he's got clones, that he's a demon, he made a pact with the devil, all these different ideas, an alien. We want to know what you think Greg Miller is.
I mean, all of those things are true. Like, just as a jumping off point, like each one of those things is absolutely true. I'm not going to get sappy about Greg Miller, but I will say this about Greg. There are very few people in this industry who you've seen grow so much in the public spotlight as much as he has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that to me has been the most interesting thing about him is that I remember like really early on when I was watching Greg do IGN stuff. And I was like, who the fuck is this dude? Like, what is going on with this cat? Like, this is wild as fuck. Who gave him a job? No, I'm just playing.
Why is his hair blue?
Why is his hair blue? Why does he get a desk and it gets a show? Anyway. But I remember very specifically once he moved from IGN to Kind of Funny and they all jumped ship and made that transition. And I just didn't know where all of that energy was going to land, right? You have an idea of what people are. Again, like the internet does really well. You have an idea of what people are until you get a chance to meet them, or you get a chance to talk to them, or you get a chance to work with them and do all that kind of stuff. I didn't know how hard Greg Miller worked until I got a chance to see him in action It was when I went to go do Kind of Funny some years ago. And I walk into the offices. I'm hyped as fuck because this was like my you made it moment of like, oh shit, I'm getting to work with Greg Miller. This is wild.
Was this a spare bedroom or was this the apartment office?
This is the apartment office. This is when they had the big video screen. Mm-hmm. And he's like prepping for the show. He's like prepping the show. And he like introduces himself. You know, we start to have a quick conversation. He runs to. This is the first time I saw what a verified Twitter account looked like from the back end. I was like, oh shit, yo, you have your own. You have like your own Twitter. It's like just with blue check people. Like, you just talk to blue check people all the time. Oh shit, this is wild as
like
fuck.
Like a private club.
It's like a private club. It's like hostile, but with blue checks. And the thing that bugged me out was we're like 10 minutes away from starting the show. He's like getting dressed and like putting on a shirt, like trying to figure out what shirt he wants to wear. And in between the time of introducing himself to me, talking to the team, looking over the notes for KFGD, while putting together the docket, he's like in Photoshop making the thumbnail for the episode later on that day. And I'm like, shouldn't you have people for this shit? Like, shouldn't this be Greg Miller like snaps his fingers as somebody just magically makes a Photoshop picture or some things for you?
And
it should be like, Jeeves, I need a Photoshop right now, please. Can you please give me the Photoshop picture of the things that I need to do so I don't have to do this shit, you fuckers over here? Right? That was my Idris Elba, by the way.
I actually was going to say, was that Idris? Because that's what it sounded like.
Really good.
Actually, that was David Hayter, but that's a whole different conversation.
That was David Hayter doing Idris Elba.
That was British David Hayter. But it just gave me another layer of just like, oh, he's hustling as hard as I'm hustling. He's not just like doing it for the gram kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like he's not busting ass to get things done. He's busting ass to get things done. And like doing it well. Like I didn't understand like getting it's like all of those small things and then getting to be cool with him, you know, more throughout the years and then, you know, doing that kind of conversations, like him hitting me up for times when he's like seeing a thing that's happening within conversations around diversity and inclusion and being like, Ka, I'm not good at this part. What do you think about this thing? Like, can you give me some insight here? You know, like having a person who is that well known on the internet in our gaming spaces be the person who's like texting you on the phone to be like, what do you think about this thing? It hits different in an interesting way. But I remember very specifically of getting a chance to see, because we did Dice together this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning to be a host. I'm learning to like to read a teleprompter. I'm learning how to do the throw from one piece of content to another. You know, I do all of the production on Spawn on Me every week by myself. You know, luckily they have other people doing that work. So I have to juggle like 7 different things at once, right? But seeing him in the pocket doing the work of like hosting a thing, I remember hitting Paris up. I was like, yo, Greg is fucking good at what he does, fam. and he was like, what do you mean? I was like, yo, like you just don't know how hard it is until you do it. And then when you see somebody else do it who's been doing it for a while and they're good at it, you just have to sit back for a minute and you're like, yo, fuck, I got to step my game up real hard to be even a 10th as good as he is. And the funny thing is, it doesn't look hard when he does it. That's the thing that makes it nuts, is the fact that it doesn't look hard when he does it. But I saw him flub words and we were both doing work. We were both doing the script and all stuff. I saw him flub some shit and I flubbed some shit. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. So it's like interesting to see Greg. Huh?
He bleeds.
He bleeds. Yeah, he's human. Yeah, he's human. Superman bleeds. But it's one of those things where it's just like you get a chance to see someone who has had to do all these things over all this time, continuously be good at it while growing a thing from the ground up alongside a fantastic crew, while also learning so much about himself and learning more about his community and learning more about the external communities. and embracing all that stuff while also having so many followers call you shit every day. Like, that stuff is hard. It's not easy. And I don't think he and other people like Angie or Renee and other folks like that who are like, air quotes, old school in the space, get the credit that they deserve for understanding just how hard all of this stuff is. I am learning every day how difficult it is until you get the reps. Once you get the reps and you're like, oh, okay, I know how to do it. Like, now I can host a show if I wanted to and be like, I got it. Can I do it while reading a prompter and be on point and have my hand mannerisms right and do all that kind of stuff? There's a reason why Paris' stuff was so good, because he's never done that before. And to see him kill it in that way, in ways that when I think about trying to do that stuff, I had trouble with, and seeing him be a natural at it and do that kind of stuff, it also raises the bar for you. But like Greg is a person who has done all of that stuff while being transparent about it too. He's never not been himself. That's hard. There are people who front their way through all of this shit and you would never know who they actually are. Greg has been who he's been, nerdy, inconsistent, sometimes ignorant about a particular topic, but has figured out ways to be honest about all that stuff with an audience that has loved him for it. So like when people talk about Greg, and I've seen people shit on Greg and talk stuff about him, I'm like, man, y'all just don't understand how dope of a human being that is, who cares and gives a shit about other people and really wants to put good things into the world and really wants to understand people in a way that a lot of people on the internet don't. A lot of people shut off and they're shut down in that way. They're like, I don't want to know nothing about y'all. You're not even human to me. Greg doesn't do that, which I find to be wild and amazing and beautiful and awesome. So getting a chance to know him in that way is just, it's so cool because you don't see people in the industry like that. And there are very few people who can be who that is, be that person in that way and still be personable and still host the thing and nail it and still be able to like go write the script for a thing and go write a Batman book and go write and go do all that kind of stuff. So when you ask me like what Greg Miller is, I'm like, Greg is a really special human being. And I think people don't recognize that. And I think once he's decided that he doesn't want to do this anymore, people will miss that. And I think that's really a good way to kind of think about him.
Well, we needed a funny answer, so I'm just gonna mark you down as clones.
Yeah, clones.
Kahlief, let me tell you this one little thing. That is that monsters can hide among sheep.
That's a really good Joker.
Just wait till you hear Vin Diesel.
Good.
Hashtag get Phil in the video game.
Come on, Phil.
Oh,
gotta do it.
I'm just saying.
Get Phil in.
I mean, all I can do is a bad Idris Elba who looks like he was a clone from Watch Dogs Legion. That was it.
I just want to tell you, it's all about family.
Oh shit! I just rubbed my nipple. You ain't see it, but I just did it. I love it. That was a Tigran move right there. Tygon. People really who love Vin Diesel, you know what that means. Anyway,
Absolutely.
All I know is one word, and that word is family.
That's right.
it's true.
all I need to
It's
know.
true. It's true.
So does anyone else have any questions that they want to ask?
Ooh, I've got one. It's
Yes.
a fun one. Something I think we've. The hell, Caesar? The hell?
No,
Laughing at me? Huh?
I just love this show. I just love this show so much.
I think we've asked it to guests before or something, but it hasn't really come up in a long time. I'm just curious, what is an underrated game that you think more people should play?
Ooh. Shout out to Danny O'Dwyer too, who's doing a very interesting kind of spin on this
Never heard of him.
for Giant Bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, you just sober, right? Same accent. I love Danny. Like if I could be someone for a day, I'd want to be Danny O'Dwyer for a day. I just want to know how his mind works because he's fucking brilliant, and I want to work with him real bad. Anyway, I would pick a game called 4 a.m. that was on the PlayStation 3. It was made by Q Games.
Okay.
And it was a game that used the Move controllers, the camera, and it was a music performance game. The cool thing about it was, in the same way that like Fuser now has that mode where you're basically performing for a crowd, 4AM had no real UI in it, but it had like a visualizer, like the kind of bar visualizer that you see. And the way you would perform is that you would use your Move controllers, and each quadrant of the screen would use the gyroscopes to be an instrument. So you would have like, and it would all be like loops. So you'd have like a drum loop in the left corner. In the right upper hand corner, you'd have cymbals. In the bottom right hand corner, you have like hi-hats. On the lower left, you'd have like another instrument. And you'd switch those out with the face buttons on the Move controllers. And then if you wanted to do cool things of like, you got this dope drum beat that's going, if you wanted to add reverb to it, you would like turn the controller. Or if you wanted to add echo, you would like pull backwards. You wanted to do like volume, you'd move forward or backwards in that kind of audio airspace. And you would see how many people were watching you by looking at the kind of like spectrogram on the screen move up and down. It was one of the coolest fucking things that made you feel like you were in a club and you were a DJ. It was like you were a DJ with glow sticks, but it was like you were doing the thing with the Move controllers.
Imagine how well that would have popped off this year.
Bam.
Yeah.
If that game was, because I don't even know if it's still playable, because I think the servers are off. I think you can still maybe do the kind of base game parts, maybe. Yeah. But I don't think the audience part is just not going to be there. But I think as a music creation tool, I think it was really, really interesting because I like music creation tools in terms of video games. Like I am old enough to remember being in New York and going to clubs where they would have these things called beat battles, and you would bring your drum machine of choice to the place. Like back in the day, it was like, if you had an MPC 2000, that was like the thing that most people used to make beats in hip hop music at the time. But there were like 3 cats used to roll to the club with a 13-inch CRT monitor and a PS2. Nice. And they used to make beats live on stage with MTV Music Generator as the game that they would use to make their beats live on stage. But you couldn't see shit because you had to bring the monitor. So you had to bring the monitor. You had to bring a TV to the club to actually see the beats that you were trying to make. It was the wildest, dopest shit on the planet. And I think that, again, it's like you see the kind of evolution of that with Dreams. It's the reason why I love Dreams and I love Media Molecule so much, because it feels like the evolution of that stuff. But I think that would be the game that I want people to like.
That's awesome.
Archive that game somehow and find that shit. 4AM is a dope game from Q Games.
I just looked it up. It's a pixel junk game.
Yep.
Wow. Sounds like it would be a really cool VR conversion.
Yes,
absolutely.
It would be brilliant to see somebody redo that.
Or like, yeah.
Yep. Amazing. I love that game in my whole heart. People don't remember it, but that game is wild.
I remember it.
Definitely have to check it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else?
What's your favorite gore porn movie?
That actually comes up in our rapid fire questions. It's not. I didn't. It's not gore porn, but.
Yes.
I'll ask one horror question that's non torture porn. What's your favorite horror movie that would not fall under that particular subcategory?
Ooh, that is not that. Oh no, that's ripping people apart. I think Twilight Zone the movie was really, really amazing.
Nice.
Because no. My favorite non-gory, super gory movies are the Creepshow series. I love the Creepshow series. Creepshow series is one of the smartest horror movies ever, because besides the art style that they implemented with the comic book stuff, it just had so many moments for me that were like seminal in my growing up. It was a thing that me and my uncle bonded over a lot. There was this one dude. There was one part of one of the segments where this guy is a guy who gets hit by a car. It's like a hit and run, and he keeps coming back to haunt the woman who hit him. And every time he comes back, he jumps onto the roof of the car or whatever. And he's like, "Thanks for the ride, lady. Thanks for the ride." And it's so. And my uncle and me would go and be like, we look at each other and be like, "Yo, thanks for the ride, lady. Yo, thanks for the ride." It would just crack the fuck up, and it was so good because it was just like this weird moment of this one dude just like would not die, and it became comedy at some point.
That's awesome.
And I love that movie with my heart. I watch that a lot, actually. I rewatch that often.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have one question.
Do it.
Like I just really want to get to the beef of it, so to speak. What is a Kahlief steak? Like what?
A Kahlief
makes
steak?
What's your steak? Like what? How do you make your steaks? How do you prepare them? Like I want to know because like.
So,
Oh.
like favorite cut of meat, how we spice it, what we do to it. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Dry rub or marinade?
I just want to know, like,
neither. It's always just straight pepper, salt and pepper. Good cracked pepper. Nice sea salt. Big flake sea salt is really good. Make sure the steak is room temperature before you put it on the grill. Make sure the grill is super, super hot. And then I like New York strip steaks. I like those a lot. Depends on how much marbling you get in it. If you get a really good juicy steak that has a lot of good fat in it, those are perfect. And if you have a good fat cap on the side of it, and you push that bad boy down, you sizzle that shit up. It's really good. And you finish it off with some butter and some thyme. Throw some thyme in the pot. Spoon butter over it. Keep it there. Let it rest for like 2 minutes. Depending on how thick.
When do you salt it?
Steak. Before. Salt it before. Salt it and pepper the shit out of that steak. People are like, I put too much salt on it. No, you don't. No, you didn't.
It needs more.
No, you didn't. It needs more. People don't understand how much you can salt a piece of meat and it still be fine.
Very different from vegetables for sure. Like
you can oversalt the shit out of some vegetables. You can oversalt meat. You can oversalt meat, but like steaks are a thing where you can put more than you think you need to put on it, and it turns out even better than you would have thought. I like T-bones, like New York strips. I haven't had a porterhouse in a really long time, but you want fatty steaks. You don't want really lean steaks. So I've never had a Wagyu beef steak yet. I've had like Wagyu meat once or twice, but I've never had a Wagyu steak. I've always wanted one, just to see how good it tastes. But I just never had one before.
Gary,
the best steak,
knows.
Gary, because Gary's rich, yo. He got like Gary got like stormtroopers and shit bringing him fucking
Rogue
steaks.
One money.
Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't got no Rogue One money. I got like Capital One money. Like,
what's in your wallet?
What's in my wallet? Dust, fam, dust. But I think the best steak I ever had was at a place back in New York. It was a place called BLT Steak, and it had dry aged steaks.
Ooh.
So you see the cabinet of the steaks, and you're like, yo, give me that steak. That shit over there that looks like somebody ran over it with a car. Like, give me that. It looks old and fucked
give
up.
Me that shit.
Yeah. Give me that shit that looks old and fucked up. Give me that steak.
My gore porn.
Yeah. I was like, looks like
Go to Fallout 3.
Yeah,
Get the meat
it looks like Saw 2. Ooh, yeah, it looks like a person's leg. Yeah, that shit was great. And it was the best steak I ever had. I didn't know about dry aging steaks, and that shit was fantastic. It was so good. So yeah, that's the way I like it. I like it medium. Anything past that is scary. Anything below that is scary. But it's fantastic. Yeah. I'm like, what is this rare business?
There's some people that eat their steaks blue, which is like, what the fuck? Why would you?
I didn't know until you need someone to hip you about like how to eat food in the right way.
Yeah.
I used to give me a well done steak, and then I was like, oh, this is like torturing your mouth. Like, why would you do this to yourself? This is awful.
What you thought was well done was actually medium.
No, what I thought was the right way to eat it was well done, and I was wrong for years. And I was like, this is terrible in comparison to getting a medium cooked steak. So much better.
we have to catalog this question if we ever do get Paris on the show,
I was gonna say,
so that
imagine
we
how
can
burnt you would be
splice
if
them
that.
together.
I was gonna say, imagine how burnt you would be if you found out that dry aged steak was actually made by Paris Lily. Like, imagine
What,
like,
yo, I would go back in time and shoot myself. It would be
Oh,
I would have to like pull a tenant and then like go back in time and be like, yo, don't eat that shit. Paris made it. You're gonna die, fam.
like, it
Don't
was
do
Paris. Like, you'll find out.
it. It was Paris. I don't even know. Oh, I just watched Jumper again for the second time over on a flight the other night, and I was like,
Wait,
oh yeah, I
Jumper or
remember
Looper?
Jumper. And then because Jumper was the like you can just poof yourself into anywhere you
Yeah.
wanted
Okay.
to.
Okay.
Looper was fantastic,
Back to
but
Hayden Christensen.
I would do the Jumper version of it and like snatch that shit out of my own hand and be like, don't do it. Paris Lily made this.
I just wanted to confirm because my boss literally said Jumper when he meant Looper the other day
Yes.
because we were talking about Tenet, so I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Both really good movies, actually. It was the first time I remember Christian, what's his face, Anakin,
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen, like actually liking him in a movie.
Oh, he's so
Yeah.
good.
I was like, oh, he's not that bad.
He's so good. Is that what you said?
He's
Gabe?
so good. There's this movie
He's
called
such a good actor.
There's this movie called American Heist. It's not a great movie. It's like I think it's a smaller independent funded
Oh, it's a
movie.
good song.
But it's him and Adrian Brody, and it's
Oh,
like
Ooh.
Adrian Brody was good in it, but Hayden like took the cake. Like he was like leagues
Like,
better
crushed
than
it?
anybody in that movie. He was amazing.
damn.
Also,
Alright.
shout
Yeah,
out to
any other
episode 3.
questions?
He's great in episode 3.
I think with that, we're ready to go into the speed run, Phil. I don't
All
know.
Yes.
So these
We're
are
not
easy.
there
They're
yet?
nothing crazy.
I love it. I look.
These
I'm
have
having
all
a
been
blast.
speed run questions, Gage. What do you mean? Like
Yeah.
these have all.
I'm having a blast.
So just off the top of your head,
Yep.
favorite video game.
Metal Gear 3.
Okay, TV show.
Carnival.
Ooh, okay. Movie.
Ghostbusters 1.
Snack.
Little Debbie cake, zebra cakes.
Oh,
Ooh.
that's an awesome one. And those are just the silly rapid fire questions that we just ask.
Nice.
Just to give some nice little insight into the person that we're interviewing. If they
I love
wanna go
We,
check
we
out
just
the
had like
movie.
over an hour and a half podcast. You didn't have enough insight enough.
Nope. 100% no. Nope, not
Are
at
you
all.
trying to say I'm fluff, Phil? It's full of fluff.
No
No
to answer
substance.
that,
I'm just a pretty face. What the
there's
fuck?
a community statement from one Philip J. Woodward that says,
Who's
"As
that?
one of my biggest inspirations to get into content creation and someone who gave me a shot when I was still figuring things out, this interview means the world to me, and I'm super excited that we finally get to make it happen." Fire.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because you, when I was getting back into like Kind of Funny, gave me a chance with KFAF to get kind of back into a creative mode, and I've been able to thank them for that, and that's been really great. But that inspired me to start doing other things within the community, and one of those things was trying to get into the Twitch world and doing emote creation. And I reached out to you and I was like, hey, I'm just trying to learn how all this stuff works and figure stuff out. Like, I'm using like a new program and all this stuff. And I was like, can I make an emote for you? Is there like an emote that you need? And you got back to me and were like, hey, that sounds great. And came back with some ideas, and we had a lot of fun collaborating and making that stuff happen. And then that got me into making emotes for Gary Whitta. And then if you watch Snowbike Mike at all, like most of his emotes and his Twitch layout were made by me.
I love it.
So I was able to like kind of take those branching pieces and build more confidence in what I was doing and what I was able to accomplish, and put that out in the world and actually do something with it. And I can never thank you enough for that. So thank you so much.
You talented bastard. I appreciate you. No, I mean, look, I think thank you, one, for the kind words, and two, your work is fantastic. Like, again, I think the thing that I appreciate about folks asking to help us out by because there's a lot of people who would be like, well, why are you letting people do shit for free for you? And I'm like, I know what it was like to ask people to do that work on my end. Like I remember way back, I asked, who did I ask to do? I forgot who it was, but I asked somebody to be like, can I produce one of your shows for you? Like I just want to edit for you once. And it just that person saying yes, and me knowing that it wasn't going to be a thing. And I was like, I wasn't asking for money or for anything. I'm like, don't even shout me out. I just want to try it and give it back to you. And let me know what it sounds like and tell me if it's fucked up or not, and if you like it. And it gave me so much of a space to say, oh, my work has worth here. And your work has worth, fam. You do a fantastic job. Like Snowbike's stuff is so tight. Like his stuff is so good. And you having that imprint on the visual language of his show and of his streams and of his community in that way is monumental, fam. Like that's the thing that again, that is a thing that whenever he goes somewhere, that is a part of who he is now in the way that people come to his work and come to his stuff. So pat yourself on the back for that stuff, man. I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't do. They don't take the time to celebrate their wins. They don't take the time to really take audit of the work that they've done and know that it means something to other people to offer up to do a thing that they would usually have to do on their own or have to pay for or have to source somebody to do it. There's a level of care that goes into asking to do something for someone for free. Don't do anything for free now, but I thank you for that, because that stuff is still it's on our channel now. Like that stuff is still there. Like it still gets used. It's still in the space for the stuff that we do, and it's a part of our channel in a way that is huge for us. So you're thanking me, I'm thanking you, because again, that's like you offered your time and talent for a person you don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that go ahead.
I think there's a big you mentioned like why are you working for free or whatever. I think there's a big difference between someone asking you to work for free and you reaching out because you either want to learn or you want to do something for them because you appreciate what they do. Because on a level, the payment that you gave to me was the fact that I got to listen to Spawn on Me and find out like what you were about and what Spawn on Me was about and the message that it was trying to spread. And that to me was worth enough for me to want to reach out and create something for you.
I again, like that hits me in the heart, because again, that's the thing that I really do believe, and this is not to get super sappy, but I really do believe that we are all in this stuff together. I think a lot of people would forget that part. I think a lot of like I liken all of this to someone asking me, they were like, what do you want to do in 10 years? And why do you keep pushing to go forward and do all this stuff? I was like, look, all of this stuff is going to go away. It's all going to go away. Like, I am not stupid. I am not a fool to understand that I am not going to be Dr. Lupo. I am not going to be Ninja, even though, anyway, I'm not going to be famous in those ways.
I almost said something real bad.
I was gonna bring up that wife tweet, but let's move on.
I'm just gonna supplant anything bad I say and just scream out gore porn. Like, remember that person got shot? Gore porn. Gore porn.
Safe word.
Safe word. Yeah, that's my new safe word. That's gonna be terrible.
Gore porn is the safe word.
Gore porn is my safe word now. That's fucked up. You should name the episode that. Gore porn is my safe word.
Spawn me to gore porn. Kahlief
I'm gonna get that shit on my
league.
belly like a Tupac tattoo. This is gonna be hot.
No, get on your forehead. Get on your forehead like Jared Leto. Is like
backwards.
Oh no, but I gotta leave a little space for a diamond so I could be like Lil Uzi Vert. Where the fuck did that tangent go? Anyway, but I look at all of this stuff. I broke the whole team. But I look at all of this stuff as like going back to sports a little bit, of like all of this to me is like an NBA 10-day contract. And every week I get the chance to prove myself to an audience that gives a shit. And that keeps me humble, and that gives me the ability to happily have folks like you and other people who have been so amazingly kind to me and to offer up their services or their talents and their time to help make a thing that I believe in bigger. Like I have a cat that I used to work with, because I used to work at Amazon for a little bit, and he's like Santa Claus for the show. Like he's the person who I'm like, oh, I didn't know how to build a computer. And he's like taught me how to build a computer. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, oh, you have some old gear you're not using that you can use for the show. He was like, oh, take it, just use it. And like people will probably never know his name, but like without that person being here in my life to be a person who was kind and just thought about what this means, none of this happens. Like none of this happens. This basement doesn't happen. The Times Square billboard doesn't happen. Like stuff happens because people care and because people spend their time to be able to feel like I want to contribute to something that I enjoy. And if it means me giving up a little bit of my time and sharing my talents with that person and for the betterment of the thing that they do, like that again is a thing that is very rare in this space. It is a testament to who you are as a human being. That you would spend the time to say, hey, I enjoy the thing that you make. Can I help make it better in any small way? And I'm indebted to you for that. I think I appreciate you for that. And again, if there's things that I can do in return, please tell me, and I'm down. Because that's the way I believe in all this stuff. Is like we're all pushing together to try to make this space better and make this world more dope. So, thank you, fam, for sharing that with me and for caring enough to do that thing in a way that nobody else did. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And to close out, are there any creators that you want to promote or throw out there? Are there any projects that you're working on that you want to promote or throw out there? Where can people find you?
I don't want to promote anybody else because I'm the best. After saying something really humble, for about 2 minutes.
Lily.
Yo, fuck that dude.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it, Paris.
Fuck that dude.
I just want to throw it out there. We do want you on the show, Paris. We think you're an amazing person. So
True.
please.
Please.
Please come
I want to
to
judge a steak off. I want to judge a steak off.
He'll come on the show
Paris.
and we'll all be on his side. We'll be like, yeah, Kahlief's cooking is
Fuck
fucking
Kahlief.
trash, dude.
Fuck her.
For real.
Yo, fuck her.
I got my
want y'all to
Xbox
do it,
controller over here,
actually.
Paris.
I want y'all to do it. Actually, I want you to be like, yo, fuck her. He ain't shit. You should have him on a back-to-back show. I'm gonna tell him right now. I'm gonna text him and be like, yo, go on the show so we can have a back-to-back show. And they tell me I ain't shit.
Oh please,
God, that'd be amazing.
Oh, please do.
We have
that
nothing
would
booked
be-
next
that would be the
weekend,
best.
so I'd be down for that.
That would be the most amazing heel turn you've ever seen in my life.
We do have something booked next week.
What we do have someone booked next week. Yeah, Rebecca Valentine's coming up.
Oh, shit, that's
amazing.
right.
Rebecca's dope.
Yo, put it on the
Rebecca's super
calendar, Phil.
Put on the
Put it on
calendar,
the
fam.
Phil?
Is it not on the
Jesus.
calendar?
No, it's on the
Oh,
damn
no.
calendar,
Jesus.
Phil,
Phil.
I'm telling
I'll go
you,
check,
nobody
I'll go
reads that group
Whoa.
chat. I'm telling you, dude. Nobody reads it.
It's so good. I mean, the show drops every Friday. Spawn and Me drops every Friday. When I'm not being a punk and not actually not putting out the show when it's supposed to. I've been tired. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At least you have a schedule.
Yeah.
Our shit's like,
I-
it'll come out either on Friday or Saturday or Sunday.
Maybe Wednesday.
Maybe Monday. Just whenever I decide to upload.
Reasonable. So the show drops every Friday. We do our live show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. PST at twitch.tv/spawn on me. This next week coming up, I should say, we're having Patricia Hernandez on the show, who's the EIC of Kotaku. So we're gonna have a fun conversation there. I think we're gonna be on the front page of Twitch for that conversation. So we'll be in front of lots of people for that conversation. So I'm sure chat will be lively in the way that they usually are.
Oh yeah, I love Twitch
yeah.
chat. It's on the front page.
Oh, it's so great.
Middle guy. Isn't that where middle guy comes from?
Yeah, actually, that's where
Yeah,
Andy
yeah.
Cortez is middle guy.
I love it. Projects that are happening. Presence of Mind is still going on. I think we have a couple more episodes of Presence of Mind.
That's
We've
Cloud
been
Nine
working
podcast, right?
Yeah, we're doing a collaborative thing with Cloud9 and Kaiser Permanente talking all about mental health. So we have a couple more episodes of that left. You can see that on twitch.tv/Cloud9 and on Spawn on Me channel. They simulcast it every other Thursday. So you won't get it this Thursday, but you'll get it the Thursday next. You get the Thursday after that. I have a couple other small projects in the works. We just finished our last episode of Corner 3 on the Fanbyte Network, which is our basketball podcast. We were doing that during the NBA season. Because the season is now over, we've sunset that for now, but we're going to bring that back once the season opens back up. I may be doing some other stuff in the basketball realm soon. I'm still trying to figure out what that's going to look like. And what else is happening? I'm going to be, well, depending upon when this goes out, this will probably already be out. Might have already happened. I'm supposed to be hosting San Diego Comic-Con at home. 2023. I'm supposed to be hosting San Diego Comic-Con at home tomorrow, actually, from 9 a.m. to probably like 1:30 or so. They're going to be doing a dope stream over there. So if you're listening to this, then that's going to be a fun thing. And yeah, I'm hosting a whole bunch of random stuff throughout the year. I'm expecting and hoping next year I'll do Dice again. But since it's going to be in person, that'll be really fun. It'll be me, Greg, and Jessica Chobot on stage in Vegas, probably doing that, which would be nuts.
That's awesome.
That would be incredible.
And also, I'll be hosting the Blacks in Gaming Awards again this year. I'm gonna be hosting and producing it again this year. That's probably gonna happen in early September. So that's the thing to look out for. So a lot of stuff throughout the rest of the year is gonna be kind of going down, and there's gonna be some surprises. We've been talking to a couple of folks and some brands and some stuff about doing some fun activations.
I thought the name was like Black Excellence in Gaming. Isn't that what it is? Or
it is the big awards, the Black in Gaming Awards.
Oh, okay.
So they got in trouble for saying the word blacks because people were like, you can't say blacks. And I was like, but they named themselves that. Don't tell the people what you can name yourself. Like they decided that they wanted to be called. I was like,
whatever.
Calm down, y'all. It's okay.
Not
you can
everything
self-identify as what you want.
Why is Ariel Knight's gonna win every award?
I hope so. I mean, look, Ariel's fucking amazing. Like, I hope that he wins the thing, and I hope they also like last bit of stuff. I'm hoping that I'm gonna be. Well, I hope I get a chance to do something with the Game Awards. That would be fantastic. You should also keep your eyes and ears to the. And I'm happy that this got brought up during the show. You might want to check out the Olympic stuff this week.
Oh,
I'll just say that out loud.
All right.
You might want to check that stuff out, and you may see somebody potentially around doing some stuff. So keep an eye out for some things on those channels as well.
If it's what I think it is, I'm gonna take full credit for that.
Yo, it's 3-on-3 basketball starring Kahlief.
Yo, if you need somebody else there, I'm down, brother.
Yo, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. So, gents, thank you again for having me. Again, this was a blast. I love coming on shows like this because there's just so much good energy between all of you, and it just makes me happy to see you all continue to push and make so much great content. Like, I listen to the show. It's not a thing where people are like, oh, I don't listen to the show. Oh, thank you for having me, and I don't listen to the show. I listen to the show. It's great. You all do a fantastic job. So again, it means a lot to have me on the show. Thank you for extending the invite. And anytime you want me to come back on, I will absolutely figure it out. And it won't be a 3-month thing like I did the last time.
That's not the longest we've had to wait, so don't worry about it. Greg Miller took me. I got like 6 months, I think.
6 months?
It was like
he's still ducking me to be on Spawn on Me, son of a.
To be fair, I just got a response back from Jessica Negri, and she was like, "Well, don't say that." It took about 3 months for her to be like, "Oh man, this sounds awesome. I would love to do this," which is great. I'm super appreciative. But I'm too busy right now. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I love Jessica. Jessica's amazing. Jessica's so dope. Yeah, she's gonna be a fun guest. I need to poke and see if she can come on the show because I think that would be a fun conversation too.
No, we'll get to everybody before you can.
No, that's reasonable.
Everybody come on here and we'll be like, hey, you need to go over on Spawn on Me after this.
Do it. Do it. Be like, yo, come on our show first. I don't even mind if you make it real spicy. Be like, yo, fuck Ka. Don't go on that show first. Come on our show first and show his ass, and then come on our show first.
Knowing how nice Phil is, he's just gonna become your booker and not have you pay him. So
and then just forget
we
to
won't
ask
even
him to
get
be
the
on this show.
guests. He'll just put him on Spawn on me and then totally forget about us.
I will tell them to go to y'all first and be like, no, we suck. Y'all got to roll over there first.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
I just do want to point out real quick. Thank you so much for saying that you listen to the show. That means the world. Like, yeah, everybody comes on the show, they have a great time or whatever. But to actually hear that someone that we wanted on the show actually cares enough to listen to it is that means a lot. You know, we've only been doing this show for 10 months now, I think. I think October will be our anniversary. So
that Xavier episode especially again was so good. Like,
oh my god,
a thing that is hard to nail that you have all nailed is you have nailed chemistry amongst you all. It is hard to do that as a person who was on an ensemble show, and I think we did a really good job of having, like, me when Reef, me and C were doing that show, we had really good energy and we had really good camaraderie on there. It is hard to see that replicated in other people's shows where it never feels forced. You're never stepping on each other's lines. You're never kind of doing that part of it. And it comes through in every episode that you put out. So continue to vibe with each other in that way and bring that good energy to the stuff that you have, because it really is fun to listen to.
Thank you for checking out the show. Thank you for the kind words, and your check is in the mail.
Hey everybody, so if you liked this episode of Out of Our League, please click the like button, share the episode, hit the notification bell, all of that random stuff. We started saying this because we feel like maybe it'll help. But most of all, thank you so much, Kahlief, for being on the show. You are officially out of our league.
Yo, go report.